Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
No, I used to live in Kenya when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And we were in this wildlife park in a grey Morris Minor. This rhino started chasing us. There's me and my sister in the back seat.
Right.
It was like something out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We were turning around saying, "Believe it, Dad. Just put your foot down, Dad. We're in a field. Put your foot down." This rhino was chasing us.
One from Mark here in Derby. Went on holiday for our first romantic holiday to Tunisia years ago. Decided to take my girl into a petting zoo. I got a bag of food to feed the animals. A giant goat then went for me, putting its front legs over my shoulders and proceeding to headbutt me over a fence into one of the pens, covering me in the food and making my nose bleed. I got out of the pen, then the goat and all his mates attacked me again, sending me running and screaming like a girl out of the zoo, with my girlfriend rolling with laughter on the floor.
A tarantula climbed up the bottom of the bed on the sheet.
Yeah.
And it walked all the way up. It's eyeball to eyeball.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, what am I going to do when it climbs over my face? But then a miracle happened. It raised its 2 front legs and waved them around. And then it turned around and walked down the side of the sheet.
Boris Johnson been attacked by an ostrich. The former PM was enjoying a safari trip with his family when the bird leaned into his car and went oi oi and pecked his hand. In footage shared online, he quickly jerked from the ostrich, don't dirty minds away from the ostrich, and shouted, "Oh, Christ, get hell," before driving off. And so I just set it out there. Have you been attacked by an animal? When I was about 7, says Trevor Jenkins, on holiday in Spain in the 70s, a monkey pulled my long hair. It was long because it was the 70s. I was in floods of tears. And as the family car drove out the car park, an elephant ripped off the car mirror. We got the message. Spanish animals aren't to be trusted. Jeremy, Brittany here from the United States. I was spurred by a rooster in my right foot a few years ago. Spurred? How do you get spurred by a rooster?
One here from Dan in Hampshire. Morning, Mike. Is an Aussie that has been dive-bombed by our version of the Magpie, which is much bigger, every springtime.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. It's Tuesday. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. The sun is up, the sun is shining, it's glittering in the sky like some great golden orb. You want to get up. If you're not up yet, by all means, stay in bed for a little while because it's going to be very entertaining for the first hour of the show and hopefully for the rest of it as well. Peter Blexley's here with me. Very good morning to you, Mr. Blexley. Beautiful sunny morning. We're going to be examining, shall we say, forensically, because who better to do that than our man from the Metropolitan Police. We're going to be examining forensically what happened yesterday up in Turnberry, where Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of this great country of ours, went to visit Donald Trump. And if you ever wanted to see what an object lesson was in humiliation, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. So if you didn't see it yesterday, you will want to stay awake and you will want to pay very close attention to exactly how we are going to make fun of Keir Starmer this morning. Because I kid you not, it was one of the most ridiculously humiliating situations I think any Prime Minister of this country has ever seen. And if I had any pride in my Prime Minister, if I had any pride in the Labour government, and if I had any sort of hope that they were actually going to do something decent, I would feel a bit sorry for them. But because I completely and utterly detest every single one of them and the floor they walk on, I'm just going to bask in the gloriousness of Donald Trump absolutely taking the mickey, ripping it right out of Keir Starmer. So much so that he even told him his greatest asset was his wife. Mrs. Starmer, you know, who only sort of shows up when she feels like getting out of the house. Also told him how to beat Nigel Farage. He told him why immigration was the biggest problem he's facing. He also told him why windmills are a waste of time. And he also told him Sadiq Khan was a nasty little man. To which Keir Starmer went, "Oh, he's a friend of mine, actually." Probably possibly the worst admission he's ever made in the history of his 1 year in Parliament. So there's much to talk about. It's not the only story in town, of course. We've got a whole list of them over here. I've got a whole sheet here. The big news as well is that there's been a fly flying around in the room, in the studio, for the best part of the last month or so. I don't know if it's the same fly. Mark, the man who is in charge of everything here, told me yesterday that they lived for about 30 days or something like that. Anyway, I've just killed it. it. So I'm really happy about that. I've killed a fly. It's my greatest achievement of the week. It's only Tuesday. Who knows what we can do tomorrow? We're going to be talking about Angela Rayner, who's going to war on number 10. The Lionesses all went and saw her yesterday. We're going to be talking about the BMA and the doctors' strike, which is now entering its 5th day. Apparently, they're risking lives by refusing to let doctors work. That's not terribly surprising. We're going to be talking about the wokists, how upset they are about Sydney Sweeney's new jeans advertising, because apparently it's Nazi propaganda, according to the wokists. And 50,000 companies are on the brink of going bankrupt, thanks to Rachel Thieves. We haven't talked about her for a while. Also, Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Tory party, is popping in a little bit later on. She's coming in around about 9:30, so you won't want to miss that either. This is Morning Glory. It's 6:05. Let's get it on. So, here we are, Tuesday morning. I don't know if you managed to watch it live, Peter, but it was quite an event, wasn't it? Donald Trump in Turnberry, which is one of my favourite places in the world, funnily enough, Turnberry. I used to play golf there when I lived in Scotland pretty much every week. I had a membership, which meant I could go down there quite a lot and get a bit of a break on the fees. It was like a little distant membership thing. And I used to drive down from Glasgow of a morning, play golf and be in the office by 1 o'clock, which was, in those days, great, because we stayed there till about 10. So a wonderful part of the world. And I think it's particularly apt that Starmer had to go all that way just to be humiliated.
And he certainly was. Monumentally.
Incredible.
I went to the Open at Turnberry in 1994.
Oh, right.
When Nick Price
the Jewel
won
in the
it.
Sun. Was that the Jewel in the Sun one?
Nick Price won it by a shot or two from Jasper Parnevik. It was very close on that final afternoon. And we were there all week and we had a tremendous
It's a fabulous
time.
place, isn't it?
Yeah, beautiful.
It's quite magical.
Yeah, really, really was. And a great setting for the Open Golf Championship.
Yeah.
But, of course, haven't been there for a very long time. But, yesterday's press conference was truly remarkable.
It was.
I look forward to dissecting it.
Well, I think we've got a bunch of clips here. I'm being asked to do them in the right order, so I'm going to try and do them in the right order. Here's the first one. Donald Trump telling Keir Starmer how to win an election.
Politics is pretty simple. It's I assume there's a thing going on between you and Nigel, and it's okay, it's two parties. But generally speaking, the one who cuts taxes the most, the one who gives you the lowest energy prices and the best kind of energy, the one that keeps you out of wars, he's kept you out of wars, but the one that keeps you out of wars, you have a few basics, and you can go back 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, whoever does these things, but low taxes, keep us safe, keep us out of wars, no crime, stop the crime, and in your case, a big immigration component, because I know that your attitude has become strong on immigration, strong on the toughness of immigration. But I think whoever's going to be, I think I won because we had a lousy president, to be honest with you. We had an incompetent president. But I won because I was very strong on immigration.
He's just sitting there, isn't he, Starmer? He's just staring off into space, as if, he's not quite sure whether to interrupt, whether to shut up, whether to move. He's just like...
It's like he's sat on a skewer.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like paralysed there. And his eyes are staring.
Right.
They're unblinkingly staring, as he is quite clearly gripped by fear as to what Donald Trump is going to say next.
Yeah. Because the thing about Trump is you don't know. He could say anything. I love the fact that Trump thinks there's two parties in Britain, Reform and Labour. Doesn't say much for Kemi Badenoch, who's coming in later, I'm afraid.
Yeah, you might want to point that out to her.
I think I may well do.
Yeah.
But he's transfixed, isn't he, old Starmer?
Yeah, and the man that runs America, thousands of miles away from us, sits down with Starmer and nails all the topics that are relevant to this country, that are concerning the great British public.
Yeah.
He was absolutely bang on the money.
It was a masterclass, wasn't it? Because the thing that's great about when he talks to the media is because he's so familiar with the medium of television, because he's been on television, most of his life, he just kind of holds the room, doesn't he? Whereas Starmer doesn't even hold his own water, for want of a better word.
No, it's quite something. And what were those things, just to reiterate? Tax, immigration, crime,
and war.
And he goes on a bit later on to speak about wind turbines and farmers. There you go, Starmer.
That's it. it's quite simple, this political business. The next one is Trump talking about immigration again.
If you're stopping immigration and stopping the wrong people, I give my hats are off to you. You're doing not a good thing, you're doing a fantastic thing. So I know nothing about the boats. But if the boats are loaded up with bad people, and they usually are, because, you know, other countries don't send their best.
We just signed an agreement to return them, and we've returned 35,000, in fact, out of the first year of this Labour government, of people who shouldn't be in this country. So we're very pleased that we're getting on with returning people who've got no right to be here.
Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And they've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore, as you know.
So Starmer takes another opportunity there to throw the lie in that he's got rid of 35,000 people, the vast majority of whom went back in November of last year. He hasn't moved anyone since, and almost all of them, apart from 4,000, I think, or maybe 2,500, were voluntary returns. They were not boat people who had come on the small boats and who were being deported.
I just love Donald Trump's line, other countries don't send their best.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
They might
He's
be
right,
bad
isn't he?
people because other countries don't send their best.
Yeah.
Well.
I mean, I think later on, at some point, I don't know if we've got a clip where he says it, but he talks about them being murderers, you know, rapists, all of the things that we talk about all the time. And Starmer's got nothing to say. If you were standing in front of him in the House of Commons, he would defend his policy to the nth degree. He would call you a racist, but he won't dare to call Donald Trump a racist because he knows he'd get swatted in a second, like the fly that I just killed.
Yeah, it is. It's a.
Sorry to mention it again. I'm just going to keep going on about it.
It's a political colossus.
Yeah.
With a political minnow.
Yes.
That's what it was.
It really is.
And that's how
boy.
it is.
Man and boy.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about it in football terms, don't they, when, you know, it was men against boys. I mean, that was men against boys. Let's have a look at the
really
next
was.
bit. This is talking about censorship. Check old Starmer out on this one. He's the old...
To censor my side?
twitching.
You mean truth? Truth, sir?
I mean truth. Is that...
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you
Yeah.
please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children.
I cannot imagine him censoring Truth Social. That's more of a very political, and you know, it's been a very big success.
Not going to happen.
And I only say good things about him and his country, so they say to me, you're making a mistake. I'm going to give my ambassador the job, make sure it's not censored. I had not heard that.
There he is. He thinks he's getting in with him. See there? He just starts doing that. A little bit of laughing, you know. I'm not censoring anyone. He's literally locking people up for what they said on Twitter.
Well, on that very note,
Hey?
I have an exclusive announcement for you.
Oh, go on.
Well, as you know, let me just remind everybody watching and listening that squad announced at the weekend.
Oh, yes, the elite one.
Yeah, the elite one, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nothing elite about it whatsoever, okay? Is going to be called the National Internet Intelligence Investigations Team.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Alternatively, NIT.
That's a
Right?
lot of alliteration, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nyet.
NIT. It's going to be NIT.
Right.
We're old enough to remember when NIT was a derogatory term for somebody a bit silly or this, that, and
absolutely.
the other.
Just with one eye, though, not three.
Yeah. Anyway, they approached me asking me if I wanted to join. So yesterday we had the very first meeting.
NIT.
It was on Zoom. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was on Zoom.
Knit zero.
Yeah. Well, I cracked a couple of gags during
Yeah.
the meeting.
Oh, dear.
Right? So I'm now the nitwit.
Right.
Right.
They
yeah.
won't like that.
Yeah. And of course, I wore a suit.
Of course.
You know, jacket and tie for
Yeah.
this Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Well, a member of the Police Underdress Society felt that was bullying.
Yeah, of course.
Right, so I had to take my tie off.
Yeah.
Right, it then went on and it just descended. It went from bad to worse. I pointed out that, obviously, why I'd been employed for this squad is because I've got my finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody from the Police Disability Association piped up and said I was being prejudicial to people who were born without fingers.
Or without a pulse.
Yeah, well, no, that was when somebody from the Police Bereavement Association piped up and said I'm being prejudicial against people who don't have pulses,
See,
right?
yeah.
So, and it went on from there. Then somebody from the Afghan British Born Association, otherwise known as ABBA,
Right.
they piped up, right, because I'd pointed out that Afghans, Sudanese, Iraqis
Yeah.
and all that they said that I was being prejudiced against Afghans.
Right.
By this time, I'd had enough.
You're not getting a lot done, really, are you?
No. And I said, look, they're only coming here for the money anyway. And that's got me another complaint. So I'm not really sure whether I'm going to stay on this squad for very long. I did spend some time yesterday looking at my own social media accounts.
Good.
Right? And I have been raising a lot of concerns about migration.
Yeah.
So I've put myself under investigation.
Very wise.
Invited myself in for an involuntary interview, which I've refused to attend.
Yeah.
So I've just got to decide today whether I'm going to arrest myself or not.
I mean, you'd think they'd actually have some real crime to look into, wouldn't you, if they were going back to their regular duties? But I guess they'll be doing this knit stuff for a while.
I think they probably will. This story has legs,
It does. Unbelievable. Here's one of my favourite clips. Donald Trump asking about his good friend Sadiq Khan.
I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London. But the nasty person, I think he's done. I think
he's a friend of mine, right?
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah. Well, I like Nigel. I mean, Nigel, as you know, is a friend of mine. Nigel's done very well. He's a friend of mine.
Starmer's face. He's going. He just doesn't know where to look, does he?
But really, I mean, that is a snapshot of the man, Keir Starmer, right?
Yeah.
When he says that Sadiq Khan is a friend of his.
Right.
We need to know nothing more about Starmer.
No.
That is it encapsulated
Can I just
in
take
one
you back?
line.
Can I take you back a few years? Do you remember when he said that about somebody else? Do you remember who it was?
Oh, go on.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
of course,
he
he
said
sat
Jeremy Corbyn. He
alongside
said
him.
Jeremy Corbyn's a friend of mine. He did say that, and that was when he was trying to make him prime minister, when he was the the shadow Brexit secretary.
Yeah.
And he said that Jeremy Corbyn was not only a friend of his, but he would make a fantastic prime minister.
Yeah.
And then about a year later, threw him under a bus.
Yeah.
And said, I was never really his friend. That's the kind of guy Starmer is.
With friends like Starmer, who needs enemies?
Who needs enemies?
With a prime minister like Starmer, who needs enemies?
Well, and if you're Sadiq Khan, you've got plenty of enemies. I saw a poster on the tube yesterday claiming that somehow the ULEZ is now working because they've measured, and you know this is all BS, right? They've measured the air quality in London and they've declared it to be 27% less polluted than it was before ULEZ. I'm not sure how that works because people pay money to pollute Britain now and pollute London. They haven't stopped polluting it. They just pay money to do it.
Well,
how is that making the air any cleaner?
Well. By what measure did he measure it, I wonder?
Well,
but
you
anyway,
might well ask.
The least I hear about that little horrible man, and I'm completely on Donald Trump's side here,
nasty man,
the happier I am.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's see what he says about farmers.
Well, we ended the estate tax. There is no estate tax on farmers. So when a parent leaves their farm, because again, a lot of these farms, they don't make a lot of money, but it's a way of life, and they love their way of life, and they love that dirt. That dirt is the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. They love it. I mean, they're farmers. They love doing it. They don't know how to do anything else, but they don't want to do anything else. I speak to farmers. I say, would you like to live in my penthouse in Manhattan? It's the most beautiful. No, sir, I want this farm. And what happens is, I mean, we were losing a lot of people to suicide. They'd borrow money to pay the estate tax, and they were not able to pay it. And some banks are ruthless; they wouldn't do anything, and they would end up committing suicide. We have totally ended the estate tax in those situations, so there's no estate tax. So when a parent leaves the farm to the kids, they don't have to worry about their local, possibly unfriendly banker coming in and stealing their farm.
Starmer's got nothing to say on this. Absolutely nothing. Zilch.
It's a masterclass.
Yeah.
An absolute masterclass handed down from Donald Trump to Starmer, pointing out the folly of his policies, of his ways, of his government, of his leadership.
Yeah. Absolutely incredible, because he must know, Trump, as he says those words, that all of the things that he's saying he won't do and doesn't do for farmers in America because he doesn't want them to kill themselves and you know, commit suicide, he knows that Starmer's doing.
Yeah.
He must know that. And Starmer's sitting there as if he literally has been struck dumb.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, he is. He's getting completely rinsed, isn't he?
Totally.
Absolutely. And Donald Trump, of course, must be incredibly well briefed.
Yeah.
he must have a team that have got their finger on the pulse. Oh, I'm saying it
Well, he's
again.
got Caroline Leavitt,
Yeah.
you know, that incredible press secretary of his,
Yeah.
who's brilliant. And what Starmer got, he's just got a collection of numpties around him who think it's a great idea to put a sort of video out with some, you know, dramatic music. Ding, 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 you know. I'd like to see... You know what happened yesterday, which was funny, and I haven't checked this morning, but I was checking last night. Not one tweet has gone out from the Starmer Twitter account about his time with Donald Trump. But that's how embarrassed he is.
Yeah.
He's not put out one clip, not one message, not one little thing saying, I spent it with the 47th President of the United States of America yesterday up at Turnberry. It was a great time, blah, blah, blah. Nothing. You know, he put out his meeting with the bloke from Czechia, whose name I've forgotten. He put out his meeting with Macron multiple times. He's meeting with old Merz, the German, and von der Leyen, who also got rinsed by Trump the other day. She's now apparently the euro plunged yesterday. She's done such a bad deal for the EU. and you know, but he's not put one thing out about his meeting with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Because he's that embarrassed.
Shredded.
Absolutely shredded, like a piece of cheese in a grater.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at Trump on wind turbines. We could do this all day.
Wind is a disaster.
But in Scotland and across the UK, wind farms...
I know, it's a shame. It's not his fault. I used to tell Alex Salmond, you can take 1,000 times more energy out of a hole in the ground this big. This big. It's called oil and gas. And you have it there, the North Sea. This big, that nobody would even see. You can take 1,000 times more power because the wind is intermittent, it doesn't work, it's extremely expensive. All the windmills are made in China. They used to be Germany and China, now they're mostly in China. They all come out of China. They say that the blades, which are carbon fiber, you can't bury. Oh, okay, you can't bury. What are you going to do, dump them in the ocean someplace? Because they only last a certain period of time. And remember, a windmill has a life of 8 years, especially when they're out in the salty sea and they start to rot and to rust. You're going to have to replace them. It's very hard to replace them. Wind needs massive subsidy. And you are paying in Scotland and in UK and all over the place where they have them, massive subsidies to have these ugly monsters all over the place. They also kill all your birds. You know, they wipe out. You know, it's interesting. If you shoot a bald eagle in the United States, they put you in jail for 5 years. And yet windmills knock out hundreds of them. They don't do anything. You explained that. So it's a very expensive energy. It's a very ugly energy. And we won't allow it in the United States.
So we believe in a mix. And obviously oil and gas is going to be with us for a very long time. And that'll be part of the mix. But also wind, solar.
The mix.
What mix is he talking about? They're trying to shut down oil and gas. He hasn't told mad Ed Miliband that it's a mix, has he? Ed Miliband doesn't think it's a mix.
Imagine what Miliband must have been doing.
Miliband's going, he's in the back room tearing his hair out. They won't let him out. He's probably like in a straitjacket. Because, again, totally disingenuous from Starmer, trying to make out that, oh, yeah, we kind of agree with you, so we're only going to kill 50, you know, beautiful birds of prey. We're not going to kill hundreds of them. He's absolutely right, Trump. You know, wind is a waste of time for anybody sensible. They know that it doesn't work most of the time. Yeah. They know that it works some of the time. But there's no point in investing billions and billions of pounds in it because you don't get any return.
And of course, when the wind doesn't blow,
right,
for this nation, it's a double whammy.
Yeah.
We get no power through the wind, but what do we get? Lots of boats coming across the channel when the wind doesn't blow.
Yes.
So no wind is a double whammy for this nation.
Yeah, it is, yeah, because you get not only no power, you get a load more migrants.
And while I'm on it, we've had 643 in the past 5 days.
Crikey.
Yeah.
And we've had 47,419 since Starmer became Prime Minister. For 2025, 24,177, which is a pretty good-sized town, like somewhere, I would say, like, what's the name? Hailsham, say, in Sussex, I think. It's about the size of a town called Hailsham. Yeah. That's too many people. You know, stop them coming, for God's sake.
Utterly ludicrous. And look at the discontent it's caused in the length and breadth of the country.
Yeah.
the utter discontent.
Well, I mean, we talked about this yesterday. There's demonstrations going on up and down the land, right? Starmer has yet to address it. The fact that, you know, people in Epping want the Bell Hotel shut down. People in Altrincham want the hotel up there shut down. People in Bournemouth, people in Leeds,
Norwich,
people in Birmingham, people in in Norfolk.
Yeah.
You know, it's all going on up and down the land, and it seems as though he doesn't want to talk about it. It's like he thinks if he ignores it, it'll all go away. And instead, what he wants to do, it's front page of the Telegraph today, is talk about, you know, getting statehood for Palestine. Nobody cares about Palestine in this country, OK? We're sick to death of the marching going on. We're sick to death of the consistent and ghastly terrorising of Jewish people in this country. You know, we do not care about Palestine at this point. I'm sorry.
And Donald Trump knows exactly what a prickly subject it is for millions upon millions of us, because he brought it up repeatedly yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
Immigration.
Immigration, exactly right. 25 minutes past 6. Peter Blexley's here. We'll continue with the ritual humiliation of the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Coming next.
Well, I think partly it's due to the fact that just in general, governments and legislative bodies are pretty bad at kind of trying to put a framework around technology and the internet. You talk about how long this legislation was in a gestation period for. So much has happened in the period between it even coming forward and it coming around now. In fact, the law was passed last year and they gave themselves an extra year in order to try and come up with a system for verification, because a lot of these criticisms that we're hearing now were put forward at the time the legislation was passed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:28. I'm Mike Graham. Peter Blexley is here with me. We are having a ball going back over what happened yesterday up at Turnberry, because two things happened really to Starmer yesterday. One, he was so keen to actually get himself out there on the international stage because he loved it, doesn't he? You know, he hasn't seen a leader of a country, no matter how small and piddly, that he doesn't want to have a summit with in Downing Street, right? Just brings them all in. And he thought to himself, you can imagine, I'm going to go to Scotland. It's going to be this amazing situation because, you know, Donald Trump is not only the 47th president of the United States, but he owns the Turnberry, owns it, so he can like have this beautiful grandiose setting, you know, with Elsa Craig in the background, you know, the remembering of the Jewel in the Sun, Jack Nicklaus, you know, Tom Watson, Nick Faldo, you know, all the amazing Seve Ballesteros, all the amazing golfers, Lee Trevino, you know, going back to Tiger Woods. Brilliant, right? Imagine me straddling like a colossus, this incredible vista, right, looking out to the coast of Northern Ireland. And then he gets up there and he gets completely rinsed, as you said. So much so that you can imagine his social media team going, "Oh, it's going to be great." Can you imagine, like, you? It's a shame you don't play golf, Prime Minister, but maybe you can get yourself out on the golf course, look a bit sort of, you know, manly, look as if you're, you know, a sportsman, instead of those ridiculous pictures of him playing football where he looks for all the world like he doesn't know what he's doing. And then after all that, they put nothing out on social media, not one thing. We've just checked again. Nothing has gone out, and he missed the opportunity of a lifetime to be on the front page of The Sun, as they've done there, because they've got the Lionesses in Downing Street, right?
Rightly so.
Instead of which, yeah, fantastic by them, right? All looking lovely and terrific, and Angela Rayner's hosting them, and he's not there.
Yeah.
He should have stayed in London.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have had his arse handed to him, and he could have had a nice picture with the winning England ladies Euros winners.
But I wonder if he was watching on Sunday night, and if he watched immediately after the game, when first of all the remarkable goalkeeper, young Hannah Hampton, was interviewed, and she said immediately after the game, and the question was something like the resilience of the team. You never know when you're beaten.
Yeah.
You never give up. Why is this? She said, "We've got English blood in us."
Yes.
English blood in us. And I just thought, that is wonderful. Bless that talented young woman.
Yes.
And then, not long
Chloe
after,
Kelly.
Chloe Kelly, Queen's Park Rangers supporter, I'll have you know.
Okay.
We're claiming Chloe as ours. We have done for years.
Right.
Chloe pipes up, and she's talking about pride in her teammates, pride in the backroom staff, and she said, "And I'm proud to be English."
Oh, I know. Can you imagine? Sadiq Khan must have been turning and rolling around in his little pit.
How wonderful, those young women in that momentous time of joy, achievement, celebration. They connect immediately with their Englishness.
Yes.
Proudly.
Yes.
Loudly.
Brilliant.
Wonderful women.
Absolutely true.
Wonderful.
And then, unfortunately, this happened.
Fantastic to see you all, and welcome to Downing Street.
Yeah, it's lovely here.
And I just wanted to say a huge congratulations to you and to the whole team. It was an absolutely amazing victory, and you must have felt the eyes and ears of the whole country on you last night.
Thanks for supporting us. You were there at the Euros in 22 in England. Yesterday you joined again with your family.
You made history so many times over last night.
Thank you so much for having us.
Fantastic.
An honour to be here. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Get lost. We're busy having a good time. What's all this about? Why is he holding his phone like that? And who holds their phone like that?
It's the
What's that about?
It's the Prime Minister, okay, of the UK.
He did that outside in Whitehall. There'd be a guy going past on a bike. God.
On an e-bike. Yeah, God.
And I love the way they're going, yeah, bye-bye. See ya. He's the Prime Minister, right? He's supposed to put the phone down first, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, and the woman who doesn't happen to be English, I don't care, this is the manager, is going, bye-bye. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, nice to see you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, clear off.
Get lost.
Yeah.
Having a party
Clear off.
here.
I want another glass of bubbles.
So I just do the show like this.
Yeah.
You know, all right. Lovely. You made history many times over. That's not possible. You can't make history many times over. You can make history and you can do something many times over. You can't make history many times over. What's wrong with him?
I travel a lot. I travel a lot. You know, when I'm researching.
Not as much as David Lammy.
No, that's true.
He's in Australia at the moment.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness we haven't heard from him for a while. Right. So when I travel, I'm researching and writing and broadcasting about unsolved crimes and such like murders, etc., etc. In my rucksack, as a permanent fixture, because I might be creating a lot of posts for social media, for engagement, for interest, does somebody know something, do they want to get in touch? Do you know what I take with me? A little tripod, okay? Precisely for when I am doing video clips. And my phone clips simply and securely into this tripod, so you're not wobbling, because your hand will always have an element of movement. Right. In the Prime Minister's team,
he's the Prime Minister.
No one has got a little tripod.
Hasn't he got someone to film it for him?
But no one's just got a tripod. I mean, these are basics.
Yeah, but you could get. I mean, he's got 7,000 PRs working for the government. Did you know that?
What?
7,000. I'm not joking. That includes all of the ones that work in the civil service in various departments, but 7,000 public relations workers who work for the government, right, who put out the message that they give out every single day, right? Imagine that. So you couldn't find one to hold the bloody phone for him.
Please, please, please give us a department of government efficiency. How can we have 7,000 people working in public relations for the government?
Well,
that is scandalous.
I mean, not one of them's doing a good job.
Utterly scandalous. Not one of them's got a tripod.
No.
That's for sure.
I mean, geez.
Clowns.
Absolute clowns. Ridiculous. Couple of good comments coming in. Good morning, Mike and Peter. I'm getting worried about the amount of flies in your studio lately. Perhaps they're drone flies let loose by the new elite police task force, watching and listening to everything you say. Be very careful, says Richard Dudley. And Joanne says, can you please tell Peter B he is a legend? Absolutely loving the show this morning, Mike. President Trump's comments are just what most people in this country think, and Keir Starmer's face is an absolute picture. That's true. And then Chris says, looking at Starmer's wife looking totally like him out of their league, both an embarrassment to this country. Yeah, that's the other one that we haven't played yet, where he talks about Keir Starmer's wife being his greatest asset. She's a great lady, he goes. And I mean, this is a woman who, from anybody else, would probably take that as an insult. You know, how dare you address me like that? You know, I'm a feminist. I'm a woman. I do not wish to be treated as somebody's wife. I mean, she only shows up when she feels like it, doesn't she?
She really didn't look like she was enjoying herself, did she? She really didn't.
She really didn't. This from Tim from the London Borough of Bromley. Great start to the show, Mike. Wonderful performance from President Trump, who succinctly analysed all the key points while two-tier Keir waffled, fibbed and stumbled and looked small. Cab for Penfold. I mean, I was getting messages from mates of mine who live in different countries around the world saying Starmer just looks for all the world like Trump's puppet or like some ventriloquist dummy. He's just sitting there literally saying nothing through most of the conversation.
Yeah. But let's remember, again, and I may have mentioned this in the past, Starmer essentially was a civil servant. When he worked for the CPS...
Yeah, he wasn't really a barrister.
Even though he climbed to the top of the tree as Director of Public Prosecutions, he was a civil servant.
Yeah.
That's what you've got.
Yeah.
He does not have life experience, of course, with the media, like Donald Trump has got, who's vastly experienced when it comes to camera, public speaking... and the such
well,
like.
he controls them, doesn't he, rather than being controlled by them?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
He kind of dictates the agenda.
Of course he does.
And Starmer just follows. He's a follower.
Just sits there. Here's one from Marco in Swindon. Morning, Mike and Pete. Here I'm so happy this morning knowing that Starmer got absolutely grilled. I don't think even George Foreman could have done a better job. Well done, Donald Trump. Keep up with the truth. And one from Dave in Aberdeen. Morning, Mike. You're finally showing your true colours this morning. That fly had a right to a family life, and now you've cruelly cut it short. I mean, I'm sorry. Sometimes you have to do these things.
The inner Buddhist in me is not very happy with you, Mike.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'm really happy, though, because the bloody thing used to fly around like here, right in front of me, like that. Literally, like all through the show. And I thought at one point I was going to fly into my mouth. You don't want that.
No, there was an old lady who swallowed a fly.
Yeah,
I don't know why she swallowed a fly.
Anyway, listen, we've got a few other stories to talk about, and we shall do so, but we're going to keep doing the Starmer humiliation because it's just too much fun. Let's get a voice note from Steve.
Steve from Barnsley. A little clip you heard with Trump advising Odia Keir on how to win an election. Every pointer Trump suggested, Odia Keir and his crony government have done and are doing the absolute opposite. What a bunch of wallies!
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Starmer schooled is what it says there on the screen, and that's entirely right. And look, and I don't know what the deal is with Mrs. Starmer, but, you know, she disappears for months on end and then sort of shows up every time there's a bit of glamour to be had. You don't need to think that in any way she's just hankering for a bit of the public spotlight, do you?
Well, she looks thoroughly miserable to me. She really does.
Well, she's married to Keir Starmer. I mean, you'd look miserable as well.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. And she doesn't come across as an asset to the Prime Minister,
really,
does she?
Or to the country.
Or the nation.
No.
Yeah, indeed.
No, she's not up to much, really. I suppose I'll get into trouble for saying that. Never mind, don't care. 6:39.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:41. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Of course, Peter Blexley's here. We've been having a bit of fun with old Keir Starmer being schooled throughout the course of yesterday afternoon by the President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald Trump, 47th President. Many of you joining in. Morning, Mike and Peter. That was box office stuff. Absolutely brilliant, getting Starmer put in his place and told how to do his job. Absolute class. And from Kent, Mike and Peter, 2 words: go Donald. So enjoyed listening to Trump and seeing Starmer squirm in the headmaster's office. It's payback. I mean, again, never before have you seen the kind of reaction to what we've just watched. Everybody's loving it, right? Because they hate Starmer so much that they don't mind a foreign leader actually coming into the country and ripping the absolute Michael out of him.
Headmaster's office, what a great phrase.
It is like that, isn't it? Now, let's get a voice note from James.
Morning, Mike. It's James from Blackburn. Well, that was beautiful yesterday, wasn't he? It was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. He was pathetic, wasn't he? And he looked like he was chewing a wasp. It was just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He sat there with nothing to say. He couldn't say anything apart from these feeble attempts. And he just went, he's a friend of mine. And he just carried on. What an absolute plonker. But that was brilliant. And actually, if Keir actually did some of this stuff that old Big Donald's talking about, we're not be like going down the gurgler like we are doing. Keep up the good work, Mike and Peter.
I mean, it's hard not to get some enjoyment out of that, really. Now, we've got an exclusive coming up, and we'll be playing it out throughout the course of the day and throughout the course of the show this morning. And it's basically this shocking new footage that we have got our hands on reveals the life of luxury which hundreds of migrants are enjoying in an asylum hotel in none other than in this very country, which ordinary Brits could only dream of on some kind of all-inclusive holiday. Have a look at this.
I have been quite surprised at the level of luxury that is enjoyed by many of the residents who live at Copthorne Hotel. When I thought of the term illegal migrant hotel, I definitely had a far less luxurious accommodation in my mental image. Perhaps what I found more surprising is the level of affluence of some of the residents themselves as well. So before the housekeeping staff make their rounds, the bedrooms do get rather messy. I mean, you can see here cigarettes and weed and ash all over the tables, banana skins left everywhere, bags of rubbish on the floor, weed grinder, weed and ash all over the desk, in stark contrast to the relative luxury enjoyed by the service users at Copthorne Hotel in the staff accommodation block, where I have kindly been gifted a room for the duration of my stay. Is anything but a luxurious 4-star hotel. The rooms are like boxes, there's no Wi-Fi, no televisions, the signal is terrible. It is literally a box with a bed and a sink.
So the migrants get better accommodation than the people who are supposedly looking after them and serving them. They've got weed in the room, a grinder so they can, grind up the cannabis and make it to a joint. Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, this young man, Aston Knight, was working at the Copthorne Hotel, where I stayed many years ago, by the way, had a golf course attached to it. And
that's the one near Gatwick, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so,
I know,
yeah. And Aston was there working to make doors fire compliant, fire safety. And believe it or not, some of the doors in the hotel were warping, were bending out of shape, because they had the heat turned up in these rooms so much, these migrants, as they tried to replicate the climate of the countries that they'd come from. I kid you not. So Aston had the clearance, was living in the quarters for a while, filmed lots of footage. He's actually put a documentary out somewhere, I believe, probably on YouTube, which is about an hour long. And I'd urge anybody to try and find it and have a look. And it is just a litany of these people who, let's remember, have illegally come to this country. Because if you've come on a small boat, to come by a reckless method of transport into the UK is now a criminal offence.
It is.
So they're not irregular, they've come illegally if that's the method they've used. Same as if they've bunked on a lorry and all that kind of stuff. It is an illegal entry into this country. He shows footage of the food. It's all kind of like silver service for 3 meals a day.
Got, a couple of choices. Right?
Of course, these people have to be fed, but the level of what they are given, and some interesting.
So have they got
footage.
drugs? Because we're giving them money, presumably, which they're spending on drugs and cigarettes. I mean, what sort of lunacy is that?
Yeah, and it goes on, and there he shows many more examples of just this one-way street where we're giving, and it's we, it's you, it's me, it's everybody listening or watching, it's our taxes, and it's all going on this utterly ludicrous situation which has been allowed to perpetuate for far too long, and because of weak-willed, pathetic politicians of whatever flavour they may be, who has been in government for goodness knows how long, this is where we've got to. And this is why, when these people are parachuted into our communities, into hotels where there is law breaking committed by these people, it's why people, decent, honest, upstanding people, go and stand outside these hotels and protest. People have had enough.
They really have. And again, Keir Starmer doesn't want to address it. He wants to go glad-handed around, talking to Donald Trump, getting humiliated. He'd rather be humiliated by Donald Trump than be humiliated by his own people. But he also doesn't want to talk about it because he'd rather talk about Gaza and whether or not we should recognise Palestine as a state. Why? Because he's more worried about the internal workings of the Labour Party than he is about the people of this country.
And on that very note, I spent some time with a former senior Labour advisor, who still is very well connected within that party. And he was saying just a couple of weeks ago that Starmer, believe it or not, is in very high spirits, quote, because of his 3 trade deals. Okay,
oh, please.
So while Rome burns, he's happy because we've got a trade deal with India.
Well, one of those trade deals involves people from India coming to work in this country and paying lower levels of tax than we do, and the companies that are going to hire them, which are Indian companies, paying lower levels of national insurance than British companies pay. Doesn't sound like a good deal for Britain to me, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And the deal that he's got with the EU is a lot worse than the deal America's got with the EU. Why? Because Donald Trump put his foot down on Ursula von der Leyen and made her do exactly what he wanted. She's now being accused of surrendering to Donald Trump. But that's what we should have done. You know, why are we being nice to the European Union? They've never been nice to us.
So whilst we're all going to a supermarket and going, how much at the till, right? When we're looking at the price of everything going up and up and up, when people are grafting sometimes 2 or 3 jobs just to put food on the table, clothe the kids and exist, Keir Starmer's in high spirits because of trade deals. How disconnected from the great British people can he be?
I know, and if he actually thinks, because he must now think as he wakes up this morning that he was ritually humiliated yesterday, because that's why he hasn't put any clips out. He knows that he is a busted flush. He knows that everybody in the country hates him. He knows that nobody thinks that anything he says is true or believable, and he knows that he is not long for that job. So he's pretty, you know, whoever's telling you he's in high spirits, he must be faking it because he can't be happy.
Or he's just so disconnected from the matters that affect us and are important to us every single day of the week. Maybe because, you know, I find that some of these politicians in senior positions, same like senior police, they live in these echo chambers where their underlings, you know what I'm talking about, the brown nosing, you know, those types.
The people that tell them how great they are.
They tell them what they want to hear as opposed to telling them what they need to hear. Give me an hour with Starmer and I'll tell him exactly what's going on in this country, exactly what people think, the strength of feelings about all these matters that are so important to people, and he won't need 7,000 PR people to spew out some kind of nonsense message, because I'll give it to him straight, and if he wants to regurgitate that truthfully, then the public might go, oh, really? But with that sad, pathetic performance and the man as he stands, no wonder everybody's getting the hump.
I know. Can you spend an hour with that Chief Constable of Essex Police as well? Sort him out while you're at it.
BJ Harrington?
Yeah, that's the one. Trump is the gift that keeps on giving, says Stephen Cambridge. Taking Starmer apart piece by piece, the discomfort from Starmer was priceless. Love the show with Peter. Let's get a voice note from Jamie.
Trump just gets it. He really gets the feeling of our nation. Starmer is clueless. Clueless policies, lawless London, so don't even get me started on Sadiq Khan. But Trump really tunes into what we think in this country. But there will still be people this morning defending Starmer and saying he's got it right, Trump's the Antichrist, he's wrong, blah, blah, blah. It was beautiful to watch, absolutely beautiful to watch. Starmer wanted the ground to open up and swallow him whole. You could see that on his squirming little face. Great show, Jamie from Hornchurch.
Absolutely right, Jamie, thank you. Just checking back onto the old Starmer video clip machine on his Twitter. He's still got "Making Britain Fairer for You" as his top tweet, the pinned one.
Fairer for you?
Yeah, which he put out on the 4th of July, right? And then, then you get the one where he's holding the phone up, going, you know, talking to the Lionesses. Back-to-back tournament wins, inspiring the next generation, history makers. Then he goes, champions of the Lionesses one, another Lionesses one, another Lionesses one, and then Israel, Gaza, the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement that he signed with somebody, with India, and then it's India, and then it's India, and then he says, this is my favourite actually, this is from 4 days ago, we promised 1,000 more GPs this year, we've delivered double that, 2,000 new GPs hired, delivering millions more appointments and making sure the NHS is there for everyone. They're on strike, right? And it's community noted, this particular one. And it says, actually, it's wrong to say that they've delivered 2,000 more GPs. The net gain is approximately 600. So he's actually been corrected by the monitors at X, who say he's got it wrong. Anyway, listen, we better take a break, otherwise we're going to be in trouble. We'll be back with more with Peter Blacksley and me right here on Talk.
as well as solar and all the rest of it. But we need to get serious about this, because the technologies of the future, if we're going to hope to compete, when you go on your ChatGPT or your Grok or something, or even Google and look something up now, you're using huge amounts of energy for the great big data centers that artificial intelligence require. And we are going to get left in the dirt unless we get real on this. The answer, in my humble opinion, is to get real about nuclear energy. It's why the French are so much better than us on this respect only.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
God, blimey, we're nearly at the end of the first hour already, Peter. I'm sorry about that. Martin in County Durham says, Mike, I watched Rodney at Turnberry yesterday. He wasn't even treading water. He was slowly sinking into his own little world of wonder. What an embarrassment. I'm in tears watching you and Peter. Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic show. Morning, Mike, says Paul in Nottingham. If these people leave hotel rooms in the state shown in the video, what state are these HMOs going to be in? Absolutely unbelievable. It's a very good point. Because, of course, the Labour government have been crowing about the fact that there's fewer migrants now in hotels than there were under the Tories, which is actually not necessarily an indisputable fact, because it may not be true. But also, if they are moving out of hotels, they're just moving somewhere else. It's not like they've disappeared and gone home, is it?
Well, coming to a neighbourhood near you.
Yeah.
But you know what, Mike? Please forgive me. I'm still enraged by that pinned tweet, part of which you read out.
Yes.
Where Starmer is saying, fairer for you.
Fairer for you,
OK?
yeah.
Because that, fundamentally, is untrue. What is fair about people who come to this country illegally, getting a roof over their head, 3 square a day, spending money, dental appointments, doctor's visits, and the list goes on and on. What is fair about that?
Tickets to football matches.
Yeah. What is fair? Oh, yeah, discounts that certain councils are offering, and I'm goodness knows what. What is fair about that when there are so many working people who are standing at that checkout thinking, am I going to be able to afford to pay this, when the person behind the till says that will be however much it is?
It's usually over £100, no matter what it is, right?
How can it be fair? It's not fairer for you. It is not fairer, this country, for the hard-working, grafting, law-abiding, tax-paying, decent members of society.
I know. It's so infuriating, isn't it? And I feel like that most of the time. Couple of other stories just to pick up on before we get to the end of the show. BMA risking lives by refusing to let striking doctors work. The NHS has accused the British Medical Association, i.e. the striking doctors union, of risking patient safety by refusing emergency requests for striking doctors to return to work. That's nice, isn't it?
Old story.
First, do no harm.
Old story. At least 5 coroners in recent weeks and months have concluded, based on the evidence that they've heard, that at least 5 people were killed as a result of doctors going on strike. It's proven beyond any shadow of a doubt.
What a shameful
thing
to do.
Doctors strike, people die. They are irresponsible, they are costing people's lives, and the legislation needs to be changed so they cannot go on strike.
Yeah, and the Tories have said that they will change that legislation. Kemi Badenoch's going to be here later on. One final story. Labour are now facing the threat of more NHS strikes because nurses have become the latest group to reject a pay offer. So we'll have the nurses out soon as well. So, you know, well done, Wes Streeting. He's managed to completely kibosh the National Health Service by giving out money last August when he shouldn't have done it.
And I can guarantee that a member of your audience right now has had their operation cancelled in the last 5 days, and consequently their pain, their discomfort, their frustration has been extended courtesy of striking doctors. Shame on them.
Absolutely right. Peter Blexley, great to have you as ever. Thank you very much indeed for joining us for the first hour. We've got much more to do. James Hill coming up. Kemi Badenoch's here after 9 as well. We've got more on the Trump humiliation of Starmer. It's all coming next after the news.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash, 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 smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, he's literally, all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another 2 grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You
It's
just can't
crap.
say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 7. I'm Mike Graham, and my goodness me, have we got quite a show for you today. Coming up in this hour, James Hill, Deputy Political Editor of The Spectator, is going to join us. Donald MacLeod is here from Scotland. He's going to tell us what he made of the Trump visit to Scotland, which is still going on. Last night, of course, we know that Keir Starmer went on Air Force One. They took a little flight up from Turnberry in Ayrshire up to Aberdeen, where apparently there was a dinner. There were supposed to be speeches. There was supposed to be more, presumably, ritual humiliation of Keir Starmer. Not one. Oh, there's the picture there of him on Air Force One, looking for all the world like the boy in the headmaster's office, dressing down. We've got loads and loads of clips which we're going to continue to play you of Keir Starmer looking at times really, really uncomfortable, at other times not really knowing what to say, with a sort of rictus grin on his face sometimes, with a sort of expressionless face at times, just looking for all the world like he wished he wasn't there. And what really tells me that they know that this was a terrible, terrible mistake by Keir Starmer is that not one tweet has gone out, not one clip has gone out of his time with Donald Trump. And this is a man who literally puts 5 or 6 clips out a day whenever he meets anybody from the world of international politics, you know. When he meets the Prime Minister of Czechia, a country that hardly anybody ever heard of until a couple of weeks ago. They thought it was called the Czech Republic. He puts loads out about him, loads out about President Macron. Remember when he came? He couldn't stop for seeing all sorts of tweets about that. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, when he came, loads of stuff going out on his social media channel. And the same, of course, goes for even Merz, the German Chancellor, when he came. Loads of stuff going in. Even when he had the Albanian guy, the giant, when he came, loads of pictures of that. No pictures at all of Donald Trump and the Keir Starmer. How bizarre. How completely and utterly ridiculous, right? Let's have a listen to what you've been saying about it this morning so far.
I'll tell you what, yesterday was TV gold.
Starmer just looked like a ventriloquist dummy.
Starmer looked like a little boy lost with his football.
And he looked like he was chewing a wasp. It was just brilliant. What an absolute plonker.
I mean, you literally couldn't argue with that particular, inference there. It was an absolute plonker. Meanwhile, in other news, we've got the doctors' strikers now being accused of basically putting lives at risk by not allowing striking doctors from the BMA to go back to work. The nurses are now saying that they've rejected the pay deal, so they're going to be out on strike soon as well. As far as Richard Reeves, Richard III or Rachel Reeves, whichever you prefer, 50,000 firms on the brink of collapse. thanks to her policies, thanks to her budget last November. And of course, Keir Starmer, back to business today, is going to be talking about how he wants to recognise Palestine as a state. Absolutely utterly ridiculous. This is after Marco Rubio has said that President Emmanuel Macron wanting to do that is a waste of time. Doesn't believe in it at all. Kemi Badenoch's coming up a little bit later on in the show as well. We've got a few questions for her, but if you've got some for her, by all means send them in. We'll also be telling you why Sydney Sweeney's jeans ads have upset the wokists. They don't like them at all. And more about the Lionesses who were in Downing Street yesterday when Starmer wasn't, which also tells you that he's missed another opportunity. Morning, Mike. Great show as always. Pictures of the Migrant luxury hotel make me fume. How does a single mother living in a bedsit going to feel when they see things like this, says Bob in Dorset. Yeah, we're going to be playing you more clips that we've got from our expose there from a contractor, hotel contractor, Aston Knight, who took this astonishing footage of life inside a migrant hotel, including, of course, the place where he was supposed to live for the 3 months that he was there, which is much less luxurious than some of the places that the migrants are staying. The rooms are in a terrible condition. They don't keep them clean. They're smoking drugs and smoking cigarettes. They're drinking. Absolutely incredible stuff. We'll bring you more on that in a moment. PJ says, why does the press not call two-tier Keir out on his lies regarding the online safety bill? He said it was to stop teenagers committing suicide, but appointed an elite police unit to read tweets, but not on Truth Social. Are so sick of his feckless lies. Well, we've got that clip, I think. We can play it when Donald Trump asked him about censorship in the UK.
To censor my site?
To censor your site.
You mean Truth? Truth
Social? I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children.
I cannot imagine him censoring Truth Social. That's more of a very political and you know, it's been a very big success.
Not going to happen.
And I only say good things about him and his country, so they to me, you're making a mistake. I'm going to give my ambassador the job, make sure it's not censored. I had not heard that.
Yeah, all over the place, really. We're not censoring anybody. Oh, really? People are literally in prison for things that they've said, being arrested for things that they've said on social media. And let's talk to James Hill, Deputy Political Editor at The Spectator. James, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Can you explain to me how, amongst the 7,000 PRs that work for this government, not one of them has managed to put a tweet together about the visit of Donald Trump to the United Kingdom and the time he spent with Keir Starmer yesterday? Not one tweet has gone out.
Well, Mike, I think that probably reflects the anxiety and paranoia in Whitehall, not saying the wrong thing and getting it all right. And of course, the danger is with all that sort of inactivity is it leads to inertia. And that's probably why they haven't had a sort of celebratory tweet triumphing Keir Starmer's supposed success yesterday.
Yes, and I mean, he was out in Aberdeen last night. We understand it was a dinner of some kind. He was on Air Force One. A picture has gone out from somewhere. I think it's Trump's office, which has gone out on Politico, I think. But it's very unusual, isn't it? Because he's a bit trigger happy on the old social media front. You know, loads and loads. If you go down through the last few days, there's loads of pictures of him and Narendra Modi in Downing Street, loads of pictures of him talking about the Lionesses, loads of stuff about Gaza at the weekend, but nothing on Trump. It's kind of embarrassing, isn't it?
Well, you'd think that, you know, given how much stock Keir Starmer put in this relationship, how much Labour loves talking about how he's got a sort of special relationship and played the president really well, you think they'd want to celebrate this, but perhaps they were too busy at the Lionesses reception and making up for lost time.
Well, that's the trouble. I mean, let's play his phone calls to the Lionesses, which is also incredibly awkward, right? Because in a way, after what happened in Turnberry and how kind of humiliating it was, he would have been better off just staying in London and welcoming the Lionesses in, because that's an absolute win straight away. Have a look at this, though.
Fantastic to see you all and welcome to Downing Street.
Yeah, it's lovely here.
And I just wanted to say a huge congratulations to you and to the whole team. It was an absolutely amazing victory and you must have felt the eyes and ears of the whole country on you last night.
Thanks for supporting us. You were there at the Euros in 22 in England. Yesterday you joined again with your family.
You made history so many times over last night.
Thank you so much for having us.
Fantastic.
An honour to be here. Bye-bye.
I love that they just go, bye-bye, see ya. I don't know. I don't think I'm being unfair to him. He just can't get anything right, can he?
I mean, I've seen more spontaneity in a hostage video. I mean, that would It was just sort of a reminder of those sort of clip videos of American political commercials where it's just like, why, you know, we're great to be here in the Downing Street Garden. You saw us in 2022 in the final. It was just very much sort of writing for the audience, dialogue very much on the nose. It wasn't particularly a sort of spontaneous, free-flowing.
The one, you know what it reminds me of, actually, was the last time we saw one of those Harry and Meghan calls to somebody, you know, when they were talking about saving the planet or something, and it was going, who is on the phone? Oh, it's Prince Harry. Oh, you know, like, oh, you weren't expecting the call, really? You know, it is, but it's just how, I don't understand. As I say, they've got a new incoming head of communications, who we know well, who's going to be presumably being given the worst job in the world to try and fix all of this, because it's awful, it's dreadful. He doesn't have a clue.
It's completely true, and you know there's a huge budget for communications in Whitehall. There's many hundreds of press officers.
There's 7,000 of them apparently.
7,000 press officers. How many millions being spent every year, and they still can't make Keir Starmer seem human.
I mean, it seems it's like an impossible task. I think it's the worst job in the world to make him seem human, because he just doesn't have the common touch. And yesterday, I mean, we can play you any number of clips. Do you have a favourite one that we can play for you? It's almost like the greatest hits that we can just play you from yesterday. I mean, my favourite one is Trump telling him how to win an election. Have a look at this one.
Politics is pretty simple. It's, I assume there's a thing going on between you and Nigel, and it's okay. You know, it's two parties. But generally speaking, the one who cuts taxes the most, the one who gives you the lowest energy prices and the best kind of energy, the one that keeps you out of wars, he's kept you out of wars, but the one that keeps you out of wars, you know, you have a few basics, and you can go back 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, whoever does these things, but low taxes, keep us safe, keep us out of wars, no crime, stop the crime. And in your case, a big immigration component, you know, because I know that your attitude has become strong on immigration, strong on the toughness of immigration. But I think whoever's going to be, I think I won because we had a lousy president, to be honest with you. We had an incompetent president. But I won because I was very strong on immigration.
I mean, Starmer was just sort of staring off into space, wishing for all the world like he could be anywhere other than there. And he seems to be sort of grinding his teeth. He sort of looks like this, you know. And isn't it funny that that Donald Trump thinks there's only two parties in Britain, Reform and Labour?
Well, I think that reflects the fact he deals with personalities, and you know Nigel Farage very well. He doesn't know Kemi Badenoch at all, and clearly, I think it was quite an enjoyable thing where he says, you know, you've got to cut taxes and tough on crime, and of course, you can imagine what's going through Keir Starmer's head, given the current focus on crime in this country, and of course the fact that taxes as a percentage of GDP are a record high of the post-war burden. But Trump's grasp of history is always fantastic. You're talking about 1,000 years and 1,000,000 years ago to win an election was just cut taxes, sort of biblical contest.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, look, very awkward, and of course, I think it's been really telling at the moment how Trump has a real interest in Britain and has thus far stuck to the government line, actually been quite helpful. But you can clearly tell when he's asked for political advice that he doesn't think that the politics of the Labour Party, albeit a bit from the sort of office, as it were, are really going to help Keir Starmer come the next election.
No, they're not, because, I mean, amidst all of this, and I was railing on about this yesterday, you know, we've got the country up in arms about migrant hotels. We've got an exclusive today inside a migrant hotel and how well they're being looked after and how badly they treat the actual premises that they stay in. They're smoking cannabis, they're smoking cigarettes. You know, you wouldn't be allowed to smoke cigarettes or cannabis in a hotel if you went and stayed in it. You know, you get chucked out and given a £500 fine, you know, for the cleaning of the room. These guys don't have to worry. We've got people demonstrating, you know, from Epping to Aldershot to Leeds to Glasgow, you know, down to Bournemouth. You know, people up and down the country want something done about these migrant hotels, and he just wants to talk about international affairs and whether or not we're going to recognise Palestine. I mean, he couldn't be more off beam.
Yeah, and I think that there's going to be a lot more focus on the migrant hotels and what exactly they claim, because, of course, you know, we had all that big talk about the one-in, one-out deal with France, and, of course, that's still not been ratified yet. We were told it'd be a number of weeks, and, of course, the summer is the busiest part, so you're going to see more and more of those arrivals over the next 3 months or so. And I do think it's going to put more strain on the social fabric, and I suspect we can see many more headlines about sort of protests, and the question is, of course, whether the scenes we see at Epping Forest are going to spread across the country into other areas as more.
Well, they sort of already are. I mean, it's a question of how much further they spread, really.
Yeah, Yeah, no, completely. And if they are able to keep up the pressure in terms of the sort of demonstrations on policing services and political pressure as well, because I think a lot more sort of local office holders who might have gone with the grain, gone with the flow last year, are very much now sort of starting to realise, hey, this is a massive issue of domestic and political concern.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's have a look, actually, at another clip that we've got here. This is from the investigation that we're doing this morning with a former hotel contractor, Aston Knight, who's filmed this in, I think it's the Copthorne Hotel, just around the area of Gatwick Airport. Have a look at this free breakfast, lunch and dinner scenario.
Breakfast is served between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. Then you can eat as much as you like at breakfast, and that's the same with lunch and dinner. You can take multiple plates, and if you fancy having 10 eggs for your breakfast, take 10 eggs.
What's on the menu? Hash browns, beans, hash browns, salad, eggs, tomatoes. Lovely.
It's not bad, is it? You know, and they get a choice of lunch and dinner and all the rest of it. They get money. You know, people look at this stuff and go, what on earth are we doing? And how much is it costing? And how much longer are we going to be doing it for?
Yeah, and of course it's not going to serve as a deterrent, is it? You know, you can have all this talk about sort of smashing the gangs, etc. And yet when you see videos like that and you're coming from a war-torn country, you're clearly going to be incentivized to come across. And obviously for a lot of Brits who are struggling right now, dealing with lots of increasing prices, the post-COVID inflation effect, for instance, that's going to be quite jarring to see. And I suspect, again, as people realise that there's a lot of market and a lot of interest in this, and a lot of anger at this kind of spending, we're going to only see more of it. And as you can see the pictures there, I mean, gosh, I wish I could have all of that for breakfast sometime.
I know. Well, I mean, you know, it would be nice once in a while, wouldn't it? I mean, it's a bit like an all-inclusive holiday when you take the kids away and you sort of, you know, every morning you're getting this great spread. But in fact, it actually costs you quite a few £1,000. You know, we're actually paying for this. You and I are supplying that to them while we sit here working.
Absolutely, and I think it's really interesting that the contracts is an underexplored issue of this. You know, we've seen a few people sort of join the Sunday Times rich list by selling these hotels, etc., making money out of it. But you can see some of this expenditure that goes on, and you have to question whether Whitehall is properly costing all of this.
Exactly right. Let me just play you one final one. This is when Trump and Starmer were talking about immigration, and Starmer once again comes out with a complete and utter falsehood. Have a look.
If you're stopping immigration and stopping the wrong people, I give my hats are off to you. You're doing not a good thing, you're doing a fantastic thing. So I know nothing about the boats. But if the boats are loaded up with bad people, and they usually are, because, you know, other countries don't send their best.
We just signed an agreement to return them, and we've returned 35,000, in fact, under the first year of this Labour government, the people who shouldn't be in this country. So we're very pleased that we're getting on with returning people who've got no right to be here.
Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And they've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore, as you know.
And again, you know, disingenuous. We know that the 35,000 he's talking about went back in November. Not one has gone back since. And of those, about 2,500 were actually illegals coming on boats. The rest of them were all people who volunteered to go back and were probably paid to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was all about keeping the man on his left there happy in that clip and trying to convince him that they're doing a lot. Actually, as you say there, Mike, the vast majority of these were not to do with sort of forced deportations, and actually money was involved in a significant number of them to encourage people to go back. So for now, Keir Starmer's been able to get away from this trip and suggest that he's doing all the right things, but it's going to be 4 long years ahead in which he'll be working with Donald Trump and a White House that has shown itself very interested in concerns around free speech and migration. So the chance of something slipping up is very much likely to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the free speech argument we didn't even get to, but that's going to be huge, I think, in the next few days and weeks. James, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. James Heal there from The Spectator, Deputy Political Editor, talking about how disappointing Starmer's performance was and how absolutely and utterly cringeworthy it was. And you can know that because he has not yet still put out any social media imagery of his meeting with Donald Trump yesterday in Turnberry, nor of his trip on Air Force One, nor indeed of his dinner in Aberdeen last night. So, you know, what are we all supposed to pretend it didn't happen? You know, that it was all a mirage, that suddenly, you know, his embarrassment is supposed to be our embarrassment? I don't think so. Well, we're going to keep playing it. Let's get a voice note from Len.
Morning, Mike. Len from Brighton here. I wasn't having the best of Mondays yesterday, I must admit, but after I'd sat down and watched that press conference, I mean, it was just the most hilarious thing I've ever seen, and so embarrassing for him. Let's face it, he's an absolute embarrassment. But it's funny. You know, if it had been anyone else, I'd be really concerned. But as it's Starmer, it don't matter. Have a good show, Mike. Cheers, mate.
It doesn't matter, no, but it's embarrassing for the country that this is our leader. This is the man who is supposedly the leader of one of the top 5 nations in the world, part of the United Nations Security Council, supposedly one of the most civilised countries in the world, one of the oldest civilisations, one of the oldest democracies in the world, and he literally hasn't got a word to say to the President of the United States of America. It's totally and utterly shameful and embarrassing and just cringe, isn't it? This is Talk.
$10K cash for Coldplay.
Play 10K cash for Coldplay with 10 grand in your hand tax-free plus 6 super hot tickets to witness Coldplay's sold-out Music of the Spheres tour from a VIP box at Wembley Stadium on August 22nd.
Tickets, top tunes and 10 grand cash.
Don't panic. Enter to play 10K for Coldplay at talksport.com/win and get ready for the feel-good gig of the summer. 10K for Coldplay is a joint TalkSport Limited competition run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:24. This from Craig. He says, "Morning, Mike. Have you seen the BBC headline that says Trump visit gives Starmer invaluable access? From what I can see, they haven't mentioned any of the things you're talking about. They are as big a joke as Starmer himself." Yeah, well, of course, the BBC wouldn't know a story if they fell over one. Damon from Wigan says, "Starmer embarrassed. Starmer being Prime Minister embarrassing. Starmer dreams for Britain embarrassing. Starmer's government embarrassing. And the US President destroyed Starmer in 5 minutes. Cheers, Mike. Have a great day." Well, this is the thing. Margaret in Yorkshire, so many of these. Mike, as the meeting between Starmer and Donald Trump went on, Starmer seemed to get smaller and smaller in his chair. He did, actually. That's really interesting. He started, it was like one of those, honey, I shrunk the Prime Minister, he just got smaller and smaller and smaller with every sort of minute. Look at him sitting there, and that's in, I don't know if it's Marine One or it's probably Air Force One, isn't it? Which is obviously a huge, massive plane. And he just looks for all the world like the kid visiting the headmaster's office. Let's get a voice note from Luke.
Wasn't yesterday a fantastic show? Not only did Trump show us what we're missing, there was certainly no fixing the foundations for Britain yesterday when Keir couldn't even get out of his chair properly, really. All it reminded me was Keir was a supply teacher at school, trying to teach a history class, and Donald Trump, the headmaster, had to come in and tell him what to do. It was brilliant. Can't wait to see what Trump's got up his sleeve today before he heads off home.
Yeah, absolutely right. And of course, as I said, one of the most important and really kind of telling things about the visit is that Starmer has not put out one video, not one tweet, not one clip, not one picture, nothing of his time with Donald Trump. And this is a guy who sends out these tweets literally one every 5 minutes, when he's got the Indian Prime Minister in London, when he's got the French President, when he's got the President of Czechia, when he's got the Chancellor of Germany. Whenever he's got anybody visiting him, he's all over the place with his social media. But not now, not today. No, thank you. Donald MacLeod's here, clubs and venue owner and columnist, it says here. And, of course, a man who knows a thing or two about Scotland. Very good morning to you, Donald.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Very well, very well. I mean, we're having some fun this morning with poking it at Keir Starmer, who looked for all the world, as we just heard there, like a sort of supply teacher in the headmaster's office yesterday.
That's brilliant. I mean, you know, the motorcade arrives in splendour, you know, and immediately they seem to have, you know, the court of Donald Trump arrives, and they seem to have brought their own fawning fool, their own jester, and it's Sir Keir Starmer. My God, so adept, he could have drowned in one of the puddles that was forming in one of the links.
I know, incredible.
Turnberry. It was embarrassing, it was edifying, but it was fascinating to watch. I mean, it really was. And but you know, the good thing is, it showed Scotland, put Scotland right in the centre stage, you know, of the world map, you know, but it's totally embarrassing for Starmer. Boom, I think so. You know, wind turbines, ugly monsters. Boom, farm. Inheritance tax, you know, it's a death tax. Boom! If you censor me, you're making a mistake. You know, it was like, and the best, you know, boom. You know, it wasn't the best one, but cut taxes and reduce immigration. Boom! You know,
and then even the one about
a nasty person.
Yeah, and he's a friend of mine. And you go, what on earth are you thinking? It's just, he treats him just like a little boy, though, doesn't he? He treats him like his mascot or his poodle.
You know, it reminded me of the first series of Blackadder, you know, with Edmund, the conniving Edmund running about, and Brian Blessed just slapping him about, you know, as King Richard the Fourth, you know. It's absolutely fantastic.
It is extraordinary. I mean, we haven't obviously seen it down here, but John Swinney, the leader of the SNP and the First Minister of Scotland, would have met him last night as well at this dinner, right?
Yes, he was meeting him up in the MacLeod house at the Menzies course, and I think John Swinney, as much as she's more boring than Starmer at times, but I think he would have held himself much more regally and much more, you know, prime ministerish or presidential, if you want, with Trump. But who can compete with Trump? I mean, he has proved that he was such good form yesterday. I mean, he talked for ages. It was obvious who was the king, you know, of the world. I mean, he's quite whether you like him or not, he just showed himself to be the boss.
He's quite a remarkable man, isn't he? For considering the age that he is, he's all over everything. He's got a great grasp of the detail. You know, I mean, when you think back to what Joe Biden was like, who's not that much, you know, older than him, you think, crikey, you know, how could that guy have been president? But he works all the time. He seems to know everything that he needs to know. He's got it at his fingertips. He doesn't, you know, he doesn't ever grasp around for a word, or he doesn't ever think, you know, what am I going to say next? He's so smooth. He controls every press conference that he has. You know, it's just, it's unlike any other president I've ever seen.
He looks a lot more presidential now than he did in his first term, I think. Yeah, it was easy, and maybe the golf has done him, you know, the world a favour, even though he seemed to be cheating all his way around around the course, you know. But hey, you know, it's his course. He can do it's my ball, and I can hit it, whack it, whatever, you know. But at the end of the day, I mean, he is not universally liked, as we all know, very divisive and polarised characters, particularly here in Scotland. But I think anybody watching that yesterday would just be going, my God, you know. It was embarrassing for Starmer. It was embarrassing for Labour. It was, but brilliant for Scotland. I think at the end of the day, he's talked up Scotland. He's going to look at the whisky exports, and we should always remember he brought jobs, a lot of jobs to Scotland. He's, you know, and the people down in Ayrshire love him. Maybe not so much in Aberdeen, but give it time. But they love him down there from providing them and putting them on the world stage. It's you know,
absolutely. Well, they can't be too keen on Starmer in Aberdeen because despite what he said about, you know, it's a mix about, you know, the wind farms and oil and gas. I mean, he's shutting everything down in Aberdeen, isn't he?
Well, there you go. I mean, Aberdeen and Glasgow. You know, Scotland's not in a good place between Labour and the SNP. It definitely isn't. And I mean, like the UK, the rest of the UK, Scotland, many businesses are closing, particularly in the hospitality industry, and there seems to be nothing given back. You know, Rachel Reeves is actually trashing the economy, and you know, somebody like Trump is just sitting there going, "Oh, look at this."
Yeah, right.
He owns it. He owns them. You know, he's got what he wants, and he gets what he wants. Now, people might not like his the way he does it, but it's undoubtedly proven to be a success for him anyway.
Well, certainly, the tariff situation. I mean, the European Union are all jumping up and down this morning saying that Ursula von der Leyen has surrendered to him and the euro's crashed and, you know, they're going to be paying through the nose for the rest of the time. Well, welcome to the real world. It makes a change, doesn't it, for us to be getting a better deal than the Europeans and for somebody to say to the EU once in a while, you know, get stuffed.
You know, and Starmer should get credit for that. You know, with you might be fawning fool the patsy for whatever you want to call him, but at the end of the day, he has delivered with Trump, you know, more a reduced tariff basis, and it's as you just pointed out, Europe is paying more, Britain's paying less, and hopefully, I just hope that he looks at whiskey, even though he doesn't drink, and says, right, well, let's bring it right down, because that is, you know, that's a multi-billion-pound industry, and it's getting whacked with the higher taxes at the moment. So, you know. Well,
according to a piece I'm reading in the Mail today, Rachel Reeves' tax hikes are leaving 50,000 firms in Britain on the brink of collapse.
Well, I mean, I can disagree with that. I mean, I would say it's probably more. And, you know, you just look at the frightening statistics coming through from the hospitality industries, like 5 pubs a day are closing. You know, you look at the farms, you know, the inheritance tax. What was it, 6,000 farms?
Yeah. And again, disingenuous, because as Trump's talking about how, you know, you can't go after the farmers, we haven't gone after them. He's just standing there, you know, saying absolutely nothing.
Unable to, and that's his game. Say nothing, and then he can't get damned. You know, but everybody's looking at that and saying, "Hold on here, this man is no leader. Britain needs leadership. Britain needs to take, you know, control of its own situation, and it certainly hasn't done that. I fear a recession. I really do, and it's only going to get worse before it ever gets better. And that destroyed, because, you know, I was one of the fools that voted Labour, and look what they've done to my industry. They've totally decimated it. Yeah. And where do you go now?
I know.
What happens now? You know,
absolutely. All I can say is thank God for the Bay City Rollers, Donald.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rolling along. Rollers Forever, the new musical. It starts on the 19th of August and ends on the 30th. We extended our run to 10 nights, and it's selling like hotcakes. It really is. You know, Shang-a-Lang. I can't wait to... you know, the 19th of August at the Pavilion, and we're looking to roll that out across the UK next year and the year after. You know, it could be Scotland's answer to Mamma Mia. That's what I hope.
Well, listen, you never know. It's going really well. Good to talk to you, Donald. Great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Donald MacLeod, clubs and venue and columnist up there in Bonnie, Scotland, where, of course, Keir Starmer's even more unpopular, I suspect, than he is down here. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's get a voice note from Belinda.
Morning, Mike. Linda here. Great show as always. I'm just phoning up about the oh my God, that was so good yesterday. That's probably the best thing I've seen on TV all year. He was like a little boy being told off at school for smoking behind the bike sheds. I mean, when Trump said what he said, you could see Starmer fiddling with his shirt cuffs, and he just looks so uncomfortable, and especially when he got to the part about Sadiq Khan. I mean, He is a nasty man. I don't care what anyone else says, but this guy has been knighted, for God's sake. He's been knighted. Look at the state of London.
Yeah, look at the state of London, indeed. Absolutely right. Let's have a look at what Trump actually said about him.
I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London. But a nasty person. I think he's done. I think he's
a friend of mine, right?
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah. Well, I like Nigel. I mean, Nigel, as you know, is a friend of mine. Nigel's done very well. He's a friend of mine.
He's got nothing to say. He's going. Maybe we just perfect the Keir Starmer kind of position. Here you are. Just sort of sit down like that. He's a friend of mine. And then he's a nasty person, terrible. He's done a terrible job. Nigel's a good friend of mine. And then he doesn't know what to say. You know, he's just hopeless. Just unbelievable. Mike, what a great weekend. England women triumph in the Euros and President Trump embarrassed our buffoon of a Prime Minister in front of the world. This was not by chance, I am certain. Donald took the chance to take Keith to the cleaners on his policies, then made him walk back. Nothing was off the table, although I bet Keith wanted to hide under it. Starmer lied to cover up his ineptitude and could not even do that right. Magnificent. Thank you, Donald. Thank you, says Mark from Selby. I mean, it really was a masterclass in humiliation because he did it gently. He did it softly. He did it to the point where he was already halfway through before Starmer realised he was getting skewered. Absolutely brilliant. 7:36.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Dave says this, don't think I've ever seen such a terrible performance by a Prime Minister ever. It really was awful, wasn't it? And then throwing in about Khan, he's my friend, it was desperately tragic. Absolutely horrendous. Absolutely awful. Let's get a voice note from Darren.
Good morning, Mike. It's Darren here from Carmarthenshire. Hope you're well. Just got some breaking news for you, Mike, actually. Keir Starmer, contrary to popular belief, Mike, was actually with me all day yesterday. We went out and did a bit of shopping around Cardiff, Mike. And they actually sent a cardboard cutout of Keir Starmer to go and meet Donald Trump. And nobody noticed, Mike. So we got away with that one. And me and Sir Keir had a fantastic day shopping down in St David's shopping centre there in Cardiff. So that's a job well done.
I hope he bought a couple of Welsh football tops so that he could prove that he loves football Maybe he did that, I don't know. One from Joe, who says, Mike, it's good to have a good laugh sometimes, somewhat in these dire times. Keir Starmer looked so uncomfortable while Trump's dropped fact after fact. I thoroughly loved seeing Keir squirm. However, Starmer continues to lie again and again. He's completely finished with the British public. Great show as always. Joe, thanks very much indeed. Let's have a listen to Keir Starmer on the subject of Gaza.
Certainly speaking for the British public and myself, seeing those images of starving children in particular are revolting. And there's a sense of revulsion in the British public at what they're seeing. And they know, and we know, that humanitarian aid needs to get in at speed, at volume. Yes, some can be airdropped, and we're working with others, with the US, with Jordan, on that, but the trucks need to get in, because that's the only way you can get the volume in. And we do thank the President for the work he's done to try to get to a ceasefire, which we desperately need, but also to put aid in to the region. There needs to be much more of that. We need to galvanise other countries in support of getting that aid in. And yes, that does involve putting pressure on Israel, because it absolutely is a humanitarian catastrophe.
Yeah, interesting. He wants to put pressure on Israel, not on Hamas, though. Let's talk to Dr. Anat Wil, Israeli commentator, former member of the Israeli Labour Party. Dr. Anat, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks very much for joining us. Keir Starmer wants to recognise Palestine as a state, following in the footsteps of Emmanuel Macron. That hasn't gone down particularly well in the White House with Marco Rubio. I don't know whether he's going to put a time frame on it in the next few days. But what's your take on what you just heard him say there?
Well, knowing the history, I understand that Britain wants to follow France into another grand, useless gesture. But if you look at the notion of Palestine, the recognition is incredibly useless. And it's worse than useless. It actually continues the conflict because it never comes with any assumption of responsibility. I've come to call it Schrodinger's Palestine. The recognition of Palestine is only useful to harass and attack Israel and international bodies, but it's never taken to assume responsibility. Is Palestine a state for assuming responsibility for having invaded and attacked Israel and attempted genocide? No. Is Palestine a state for assuming responsibility for surrendering and accepting defeat so this whole mess can be over? No. Is Palestine a state for finally acknowledging the lie that people who live in Palestine are not Palestine refugees, do not possess a right of return? No. So you see that it is just another grand, useless gesture. The French are known for those. I'd be sorry to see the British follow suit. But in any case, it is of no relevance. The only thing that would really do good rather than just feel good, it seems that too many people just want to feel good rather than do good. But the thing that would actually do good is, as he suggested, to make it clear to the government of Gaza, which unfortunately is still Hamas, to surrender, end the conflict, release the hostages, and then the people of Gaza can turn their lives to building something rather than focusing on destroying what their neighbors have built.
Yeah, and also, you know, there's no shortage of aid. I've seen plenty of pictures over the past few days of people who have gone into Gaza where there are, you know, trailerfuls of aid, which are just sitting there because the UN is not moving them. You know, and this business of, you know, the starvation that's going on in Gaza is very much more part, is it not, of this Hamas propaganda arm?
Of course, and they are putting it to very good use. It's been an entire global hysteria. We know that the images of children have been tragically used and abused, of children who have other diseases, to claim that they were starving. We are in an unprecedented situation in human history where Israel is required to actually fund its enemy, supply its enemy, and essentially continue to give a lifeline to its enemy while it continues to hold our hostages and refuses to surrender.
Yeah. I know, it's quite remarkable. And I mean, the trouble is, though, that so many people, including our own Prime Minister, have fallen for this narrative that you wonder what Israel can do to sort of reclaim the moral high ground, if you like, because they've kind of lost it.
I agree with you. It does feel like we're living in an upside-down world where people are falling again and again to manufactured hysterical lies. They are not able to cut through it, not simply see what the kind of Britain that existed quite a few decades ago that knew that if you have an enemy with a terrible ideology, I've come to call it Palestinianism, this singular obsession with the non-existence of a Jewish state in any border, that ideology has to be defeated. The enemy has to unconditionally surrender, has to change its ideology, and then you can build a world of peace. Europe, Britain used to know that, yet somehow their children, their grandchildren today have been so used to a world of peace that they seem to conveniently forget how this world of peace was achieved. And it was not achieved by supplying your enemy. No. It was achieved by fighting a war until your enemy unconditionally surrendered and changed their destructive ideology.
Yeah. Yeah, if only that could be sort of printed out on a sheet of paper and just handed to somebody. That's brilliant. Anat, thank you very much indeed. Good to hear from you. Dr. Anat Wil, Israeli commentator and former member of the Israeli Labour Party, saying some very sound things, which I can't believe people don't actually understand, need to be understood. Let's get a word with John. He's in the Dordogne in France. Hi, John.
Bonjour, Mike.
Bonjour, how are you?
All right, mate. I reckon that was Nigel's prints all over that yesterday with Mr.
You think he
Trump.
teed him up?
Oh, I wouldn't be one bit surprised.
Yeah. It was awful, though, wasn't it? It was just humiliating to the point of just painfulness, because Starmer, I don't think, realised it was happening until it started happening.
Yeah, he just set him up a treat, didn't he? You know,
brilliant.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump says something like, "You sort this out, or your imports are going to cost more tariffs." I wouldn't be surprised. The other thing I want to say, I've been trying to get through, is these problems we've got with immigration, all these demonstrations, is the Socialist Workers' Party. Yes, they're like the hub of a wheel, and Antifa and all of that. Oil rebellion. They all come out of the Socialist Workers' Party. It's all the same people. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all carrying the same placards, and they're ridiculously out of touch with reality. They're carrying placards saying "No far right in Epping." They're not even from Epping.
No.
You know, it's ridiculous. No, John, good to talk to you. Thanks very much. Yeah, have a good one. John in the Dordogne there. Morning, Mike, says Rachel. Looking forward to any clips of Keith from yesterday. Priceless. He was like a small boy getting scolded. By the way, please tell Peter Blexley I'm very much looking forward to seeing his show in Cardiff. Very nice. I'm sure he'll be looking forward to doing it as well. We've got so many messages coming in, and we'll try and get to as many of them as we can. Here's another voice note from Pete.
As much as I enjoyed watching Starmer getting his backside spanked yesterday, I don't think it's going to make the slightest bit of difference. Trump and he are at opposite ends of the ideological spectrum, and all this is going to do is make Starmer double down, because he's going to want to prove that his ways are better than Trump's ways.
Yeah, but he's already proving that they're not. That's the problem. Because the thing about Trump is he got re-elected. Starmer ain't getting re-elected, not in this lifetime. No way. No, sir. 7:49. Coming up, we're going to take the mickey out of Starmer some more with wind farms and what Donald Trump said about that. Ben Powell's going to join us.
has a firmer grip on the state of London and the way Khan has trashed it than our Prime Minister does.
So you see, he's a friend of mine. He is desperate. I'll tell you why Starmer is desperate. And I did, to my credit, say this during the election. Lots of other people did as well. But I remember saying every night, his tent is so wide. I remember when he got that Tory MP from Dover, Elphic's wife. She came and joined him. And I remember thinking, you've got Corbyn's lot, you've got her. Your tent is so big to get elected, mate. When you get elected, you're going to spend your entire time running around fighting fires.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, 7:52, with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. I can't believe we're already 2 hours into the show. Remarkable, absolutely remarkable. Let's get a voice note from Paul on Trump.
Morning, Mike. It's Paul in Bournemouth. Absolutely brilliant watching Starmer squirm. Reminding me of that time with Gordon Brown. Do you remember? And the lady that he called a bigot, and he was in his car saying to his aides, "Who put me with that woman?" You get the impression Starmer might have said the same thing. Who put me with that bloke telling us to stop migrants coming in? Anyway, great show. Cheers.
Well, we're coming up to the 8 o'clock hour, which is when Keir Starmer usually puts out his first lie of the day. So we'll see whether he actually manages to put something together from that trip to see Trump yesterday. We're going to talk to Ben Powell now, writer and co-founder of Climate Debate UK. Let's have a look first, though, at what Trump had to say about wind turbines.
Wind is a disaster.
But in Scotland and across the UK, wind farms...
I know, it's a shame. It's not his fault. I used to tell Alex Salmond, you can take 1,000 times more energy out of a hole in the ground this big. This big. It's called oil and gas. And you have it there, the North Sea. This big, that nobody would even see. You can take 1,000 times more power because the wind is intermittent, it doesn't work, it's extremely expensive. All the windmills are made in China. They used to be Germany and China, now they're mostly in China. They all come out of China. They say that the blades, which are carbon fiber, you can't bury. Oh, okay, you can't bury. What are you going to do, dump them in the ocean someplace? Because they only last a certain period of time. And remember, a windmill has a life of 8 years, especially when they're out in the salty sea, and they start to rot and to rust. You're going to have to replace them. It's very hard to replace them. Wind needs massive subsidy. And you are paying in Scotland and in UK and all over the place where they have them, massive subsidies to have these ugly monsters all over the place. They also kill all your birds. You know, they wipe out. You know, it's interesting. If you shoot a bald eagle in the United States, they put you in jail for 5 years. And yet windmills knock out hundreds of them. They don't do anything. You explained that. So it's a very expensive energy. It's a very ugly energy. And we won't allow it in the United States.
So we believe in a mix. And obviously oil and gas is going to be with us for a very long time. And that'll be part of the mix. But also wind, solar.
We believe in a mix. We believe in a mix, a mix, a mix. Ben Powell's here. He's going to tell us about how amazing this Labour government is and how Ed Miliband's energy policies are the work of the smartest people in the world. Just reading your tweet there, obviously tongue very firmly in your cheek. That was great to watch, wasn't it?
It's always fun to see someone who can't do anything but lie, basically, sit there and squirm, because at last, after decades, actually, a UK Prime Minister is being held to account, not by us, unfortunately, but by someone explaining the facts of energy to him. This is energy realism, now firmly established on the global political agenda by Trump, and hopefully on our agenda as well.
Well, you'd like to think so, but I mean, even as he was saying, it's a mix. You know, it's not actually a mix, because they're still absolutely dead set on these net zero targets. They're dead set on ending the exploration for oil and gas, and they're dead set on making everything, or at least as far as mad Ed Miliband is concerned, renewable.
Yeah, Ed Miliband came to power pretty vindictively signalling his desire to kill the North Sea oil and gas entire sector, and overturning what the Conservatives had finally realised was necessary just to be able to keep the lights on and to keep the traffic moving and so on and so forth. Not that they've been great on this, certainly not in government and not in opposition, but there was something extra spiteful about Labour, and that seems to be the way that they inaugurate their return to power, with these quite spiteful, essentially class war moves, which the Green agenda has somehow converged into. But it's been a stack of lies that has dominated the Green agenda, the Green energy agenda, for 20 years or more now. And I think it's got to the point where no real agency of the British state is even capable of telling the truth. It's not in their standard operating procedure. It's not in their operating manuals. And what they're more concerned with is messaging. And it seems to be that the entire government operation just tells you what they think that you need to hear. They won't allow a conversation to emerge in which any of this stuff is criticised. Yet it's been very obvious since the beginning, going back 20 years, that this is on the cards. Civil servants and people who ran the energy infrastructure, it would leak out. They were saying then that energy is going to have to be more expensive, and they were saying that electricity, on which everything is going to depend, all the heating, all the transport, and the power is going to come through the wires. They were saying that it's only going to be available at certain times of the day at the right price, so that people were not going to be able to use it. So they've known. We can know that they've known this for 20 years, and yet what they've done for every time in, time out is to say that green energy is a drop-in replacement for energy from coal and gas and oil, which is just it's a catastrophic lie. And now those catastrophic lies are coming home to roost, so to speak. Yeah. And that fact is undeniable. So I've got some figures here which I think help make the point. In June, the cost of power for gas was 8.6 pence, of which 2.6 pence was carbon tax. So the fuel cost, the actual cost of turning gas into electricity is 6 pence per kilowatt hour, right? Now, anyone who knows those, who pays the bills, won't recognise that it's cost 6p a kilowatt hour. What they're paying is 26 pence, a kilowatt hour. So there's 20 pence been added to the price of electricity between the wholesale market and your plug. Right, so that 20 pence, what's that doing? That's subsidising wind farms, that's subsidising solar farms, and all of the other renewable scams, as I think Mr. Trump called them. Quite rightly, too, because we have to explain that other 20 pence. What the likes of Ed Miliband and Keir Starmer have been saying is that wind power and solar power are cheaper at the wholesale market,
which they're not.
Well, they're not. So I can tell you, offshore wind, according to the contracts that Ed Miliband wants to sign, is going to cost you 12 pence a kilowatt hour. That's already twice as much as power from gas. Onshore wind is going to cost you 9.5 pence at wholesale prices, and solar power is going to cost 7.7 pence. So these are all figures that are more than power from gas in June. So everything that they've been saying about green power, creating jobs, lowering bills. Yeah. It's all, obviously a lie,
isn't it? It's all cobblers. I mean, there are no jobs. There isn't any cheap money to be had. There isn't any saving to be made. Ben, thank you very much indeed. We've got to run. Ben Bowell, writer and co-founder of Climate Debate UK. Also, thankfully, Donald Trump's now talking about the cost of replacing these things. You know, these windmills, these turbines. They don't last forever. And when they die, you can't do anything with them. You just have to let them rot and pollute the environment, which is kind of ironic given the green issues that they go on about. Coming up, Ryan Sabey from The Sun is joining us. So is Isabelle Oakshot. We'll see you after the news.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Coming up to very nearly 4 minutes past 8. I'm Mike Graham. The sun is up. It's not looking great today, but it's looking all right, you'd have to say. It is Tuesday, the 29th of July, of course, and we are well into the week. Don't forget, if you ever miss any of the show, you can get a Morning Glory podcast, which comes out just after we finish, after 10 o'clock, usually about 10:15, 10:30, with the best bits from the show. That's every single weekday from 6 to 10. Coming up later on in the next hour, Kemi Badenoch's going to join us. The Conservative leader is going to be popping into the studio. So if you've got any questions for her, by all means send them in, and we shall endeavour to put them to her. She might be pleased to know, or possibly not pleased to know, that Donald Trump yesterday, when he met up with Keir Starmer at Turnberry, said, yeah, I know it's a two-party system, Reform and Labour. Doesn't seem to think there's a Conservative Party, or one that he has any business mentioning. It was a complete and utter ritual humiliation of our Prime Minister yesterday. He went all the way to Scotland, missed out on sitting in front of the Lionesses in Downing Street, because they all went to Downing Street. It's on the front page of The Sun, as you can see. Basically, it says, strong and victorious on the steps of number 10. But unfortunately, no Keir Starmer. Instead, he decided to go glad-handing with the President of the United States of America. And it didn't work out too well for him, I'm afraid, because he was basically humiliated on the subject of censorship. He was told, basically, cut the migrants if you want to win the next election. He was also told that Nigel Farage was a great guy and that Sadiq Khan was a nasty person, even though Keir Starmer said, well, he's a friend of mine, actually. That didn't help him out. He then got lectured on farmers. He was told that you shouldn't be taking away the estate duties from farmers because they need to be able to love the dirt that they work in, because that's what they love to do, and they need to be looked after. They don't make that much money. Starmer had nothing to say. Same goes for wind turbines. He said wind is rubbish, absolute crap, basically. And Starmer just sat there and said, well, we're having a mix of different energies. And it was just appalling, just ridiculous. Trump told him how to win an election. Basically, bring down taxes, cut immigration, and make sure that whatever you do, you go for oil and gas. All three things that Starmer simply is not doing. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Ryan Sabey from The Sun. Also, Oliver Harvey's going to join us as well. Isabelle Oakshot's here too. We're going to be giving you more footage from our exclusive this morning as well, from a hotel contractor, Aston Knight, who's given us unparalleled access into a hotel, the Copthorne Hotel, down in Surrey, near Gatwick Airport, where a lot of migrants have been living for the best part probably of the last several years. You will be astounded at the kind of quality of the treatment that they are getting. They get treated better, actually, than he got treated when he was working there. 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, on the Chancellor of the Exchequer front, Rachel Reeves, thanks to her budget, there's about 50,000 firms now on the brink of collapse. Absolutely brilliant. 0344 499 1000 is the number. This, of course, is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Got this from Peter in Seaham Harbour. Fantastic number of messages coming in. Please keep sending them in. We'll try and get to all of them. A fantastic viewing today. He says, I knew it would be. When will the Labour backbenchers realise their leader is a dud and get rid of him? It can't come soon enough. Cheers. One from Gillian in Essex. Oh, my God. Just looked at the BBC. They only showed the Gaza section and the Trump demos. Absolutely nothing on his roasting. Shows again the BBC manipulation of the general public. Well, I said this on Monday because I was watching the BBC News over the weekend and looking at the BBC's website, just because I occasionally like to see what they're up to. And you would never have known that there were any demonstrations going on in Epping, or indeed in Glasgow, or indeed in Leeds, or in Bournemouth, or in Aldershot. All the places are in Manchester where all these demos have been going on. They weren't covering them at all. We've got a voice note from Matt.
Mike, Matt in Hove here. Just watching that clip of the Copthorne Hotel and the buffet breakfast, lunch and dinner. It's absolutely insane. Why are we paying for someone else to have their meals? It's completely mad. If you go to a hotel and you want to have breakfast, you normally have to add 15 quid on top. Lunch and dinner, it's probably about 100 quid extra a night. And we're paying for it. Like, we are absolute mugs. Absolutely sick of this.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. They probably get a free mug as well. Here's another clip from our exclusive look inside the Copthorne Hotel. Check this out.
Breakfast is served between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. Then you can eat as much as you like at breakfast, and that's the same with lunch and dinner. You can take multiple plates, and if you fancy having 10 eggs for your breakfast, take 10 eggs.
What's on the menu? Hash browns, beans, hash browns, salad, eggs, tomatoes. Lovely.
It's making me quite hungry, that. I can't afford breakfast because I've got to work, unfortunately. I have to wait till I've finished, by which time it's nearly lunchtime. So I don't usually have breakfast. Let's talk to Ryan Sabey, Deputy Police Editor at The Sun, of course. Very good morning to you, Ryan.
Good morning, Mike.
We've got plenty to talk about this morning. I'm just going to kick off, though, with that little piece of footage we saw there. We've acquired it from a former hotel contractor called Aston Knight, who was working inside of the Copthorne Hotel for about 3 months. Piles of rubbish left in corridors, taxis booked to ferry children to school every morning, residents piling their plates high, one migrant, as you saw in that clip, having 10 eggs for breakfast. You know, people are getting really fed up with this, aren't they?
Yeah, I think when you see videos like that, it looks, pretty luxurious in there. The sort of place that people might want to go for, take the family and go for a weekend away. They don't expect migrants or asylum seekers to be staying there while their claims are being processed. And I think it's videos like this will just absolutely rile the country even more. You just look around at the sort of not quite chandeliers in the bedroom. It doesn't look quite, far off. And then you look at the breakfast and the help yourself attitude. I think this is one of the things that is just going to really wind up the public. And we've seen, obviously, those protests outside hotels up and down the country in recent days. And this is just going to add to that.
Yeah, absolutely right. And unfortunately, it's not a subject that, despite what Donald Trump said to him yesterday, Keir Starmer really wants to address. Over the weekend, he was obsessed with the subject of Gaza. That was all he wanted to talk about. He wanted to talk about it yesterday with Donald Trump. Donald Trump told him, it's on the front page of The Sun, from your colleague Jack Elsom, told him basically cut immigration and taxes if you want to stay in power. But, he doesn't even want to have a conversation about the demonstrations that are going on around the country in growing numbers of places.
Yeah, you listen to the wise words from Donald Trump yesterday when it comes to winning elections. It was almost as if he was setting a blueprint for actually trying to get over the line next time, if Keir is even in that position. And I'm sure those advisors in Downing Street will be alive to that. So Keir Starmer will be alive to what they need to actually win again. But the trouble is, those numbers are just going up. We look at the numbers of migrants coming over in small boats. Yeah. That's sort of around the sort of 40+ % increase on this time last year. The images that we see of those people crossing those boats, we seem to see them sort of day in, day out, and again that just winds the public up. Now, there are other issues that the Prime Minister has to deal with, and the issue of Gaza is obviously extremely important. But as Donald Trump says, the sort of the key to being successful when you're in office is addressing those key concerns that the public have. And they are at the moment, they are immigration, they are the cost of living crisis and the economy, and dealing with the NHS. Now, there's a lot on the Prime Minister's plate, but they're the 2 or 3 things that the Prime Minister really has to get on top of.
Well, he really does. And, he seems once again to be burying his head in the sand. We've got so many stories this morning about censorship as well. Donald Trump asked him about it yesterday. We'll play you that clip in a second. Immigration, as you say, a massive issue, not just for the purposes of making our borders safe, but just for, making the streets safe, making the crime numbers go down, not continuing to import, foreign criminals who are going to commit acts of horror in this country. And he just doesn't seem to even understand what it is that the people are crying out for. And that, I think, is the most troubling thing. Let's have a look at what Trump said to him about censorship.
To censor my side?
To censor your side.
You mean truth?
And
Truth Social?
My new truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor
No,
my
no,
site
no, no,
because I
no.
say only good things. Will you
Yeah.
please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children.
I cannot imagine him censoring Truth Social. That's more of a very political, and you know, it's been a very big success.
Not going to happen.
And I only say good things about him and his country, so they say to me, you're making a mistake. I'm going to give my ambassador the job, make sure it's not censored. I had not heard that.
So, I mean, and there's Starmer trying to deny that he's censoring anybody, but the online, you know, safety bill clearly has been censoring people. It's as simple as that. And there's literally people in prison for things that they said on social media.
Yeah, Donald Trump there, that's about as angry as he got yesterday with Sakir. Pretty pointed words there about actually making sure that there is absolutely no censorship when it comes to his Truth Social. Sakir was very, very sort of pains to point out that, oh no, this has got nothing to do with free speech. This is all about protecting the under 18s when it comes to harmful content or adult content, and that's why. And obviously there were law changes that came in at the back of last week. So as much as I think, you know, Trump sees this as a free speech issue, and Sakir sees the sort of protection on the online safety as protecting children. But as you saw there, the president was very keen to get his ambassador to sort out any issues. Yeah. And I think if there is anything, Keir will make sure that's ironed out.
Yeah, because there has been word mentioned, certainly from J.D. Vance's perspective in America and others who have said, you know, if you're going to try and put censorship onto American media companies, they're not going to see it too well from the other side of the Atlantic, and there might well be retaliation, if you like, on the trade deal front, you know, because at the end of the day, whether he likes it or not, it is censorship. You know, they've just voted for 16-year-olds to have the vote, to be able to vote in the next election, but they're not apparently allowed to see a speech by Katie Lamb, which was made in Parliament, about migrants.
Yeah, no, it's very
That's
odd.
censorship, isn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. It seems very strange that you have someone making a speech in the Mother of Parliament, you know, respected Conservative MP on a very, very important subject, and it can't get shown. So I think this is the trouble with you know, some laws when they first come in. There are teething problems, and it's up to those ministers to actually get a grip on this and get on grip of it pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely right. And what did you make of the Sadiq Khan reference? Because let's have a quick look at that as well. Trump was asked about Sadiq Khan. He didn't give a very performative answer. He wasn't very keen on it.
I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London. But the nasty person, I think he's done. I think
he's a friend of mine, right?
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah. Well, I like Nigel. I mean, Nigel, as you know, is a friend of mine. Nigel's done very well. He's a friend of mine.
I mean, poor old Starmer there doesn't quite know where to look, does he?
No, Sakir was in a pretty awkward position there as he sat next to the president. Now, a lot of this all goes back, you know, many, many years to actually when Donald Trump was in the presidency in the White House first time round, and we had that state visit first time where Sadiq Khan allowed those blimps to be actually put up in London. Yeah. And I think that is one of the many things that has wound those two characters up. But Donald Trump not letting up one iota on his sort of anger towards Sadiq Khan. And again, a little bit of an awkward moment there. And Keir must have been running through his mind: do I attack the president for what he said about one of his colleagues, or do I let it lie? So he's probably thinking about the reaction of what Labour people would say and those senior Labour figures, and he thought, I think this is one time where I'm actually going to intervene and actually say I'm standing up for this guy. But it is interesting to see how Sakir has to ride very close to Donald Trump, but at times he just has to pull his foot down, and that was one example just there.
Well, I don't know about putting his foot down. It just looked like he was sort of trying desperately to make it look as if he wasn't just going along with it. You know, that's what I would say. But the funny thing about the Starmer moments yesterday is that none of them appear to have been recorded for posterity by his social media team, who have been very keen to put out every single meeting he's ever had with any international leader, no matter who it is. And this is supposed to be his closest ally. And not one clip, not one photo, nothing has been put out on Keir Starmer's social media feed, which strikes me as an admission that it all went rather badly and he was completely humiliated.
Yeah, no, it's a very fair point, and it's one thing that we'll be checking in with Downing Street later today on that. I just wonder whether the maybe some of that footage is not released until after Donald Trump leaves the country. But that's a very good point. Normally within minutes or hours of meeting a world leader, we have very glossy video footage. We have pictures left, right, and centre coming out.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we'll check out today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen him be so reticent to put it out. I mean, when Narendra Modi was here, you were getting live tweets going out from meetings they were having and from press conferences they were doing. Same with Macron, same with Merz from Germany, same with the guy from Czechia. Every single time anybody comes here, it's all out there. And I mean, we're playing it. It's not as if it's not available. Yeah,
I just wonder whether there's that, because of that close relationship. There's something they may not want to. They may have to get. They may want to get agreement from the White House on some of the tweets and some of the images that go out, and that may be the stumbling block. But it does seem odd when we do have those close ties and we don't have the freedom to do that. It may well be that it's just updated later today, but we'll definitely work to speak to Downing Street about that.
Yes, I think you should, absolutely. Good to talk to you, Ryan Sabey. Thank you very much indeed. Deputy Political Editor at The Sun. Let's get a voice note from Brian.
Morning, Mike. Brian at Southend. Well, sort of smiling because it's great to see Starmer squirm and all that yesterday. But just a couple of things that I'm not quite sure of that maybe you could put me right. If he recognises Gaza as a state, as he wants to, does that mean that Hamas as a terrorist group will be declassified as a terrorist group? And all this, talking to Trump about the oil and all that, he goes, oh, we're in the mix. I've never heard Miliband say one thing about oil or gas. He wants it gone completely. So I don't know where he gets this in the mix from.
Yeah, it's a brand new invention. Because he obviously couldn't say, I completely disagree with you, we think wind and solar are the future, because Trump would have just slapped him like a wet fish. So he had to sort of make out that, we might just use a bit of that, but also we get a bit of other stuff in the mix. I mean, that's what he's like. I don't know what's wrong with him. It's 8:21.
realistic do you think a ceasefire is this week?
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind. We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.
What are you looking for here?
An end. A real end. Well, all of a sudden he's a big shot because he has the U.S. on his side. I am very disappointed with President Putin. He'll talk so beautifully and then he'll bomb people at night.
Has a firmer grip on the state of London and the way Khan has trashed it than our Prime Minister does.
Yeah. So you see, he's a friend of mine. He is desperate. I'll tell you why Starmer is desperate. And I did, to my credit, say this during the election. Lots of other people did as well. But I remember saying every night, his tent is so wide. I remember when he got that Tory MP from Dover, Elphic's wife. She came and joined him. And I remember thinking, you've got Corbyn's lot, you've got her. Your tent is so big to get elected, mate. When you get elected, you're going to spend your entire time running around fighting fires.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. This, of course, is the home of common sense, and it's here with you all the way through the day, 24/7. Coming up after me at 10 o'clock, Julie Hartley-Brewer's here. Morning, Mike from Lanarkshire, says Jim. I was driving home from work this morning and caught the last 30 minutes of the part of the show with Peter Blexley. It was fantastic. Peter is awesome at summing up how the decent British people are thinking. I must watch the whole hour on YouTube. Yesterday, Starmer received a lesson from Trump. Trump slapped him down like a wet kipper. Trump worked Starmer like a puppet. He clearly has little time for Starmer. And by the way, the great British public have to refuse to visit any of the hotels utilised for illegal immigrants once the illegal immigrants have been booted out. Yeah, somebody said that to me yesterday, actually. And Bill in Cheshire says, Starmer's demolition by Trump, it was exactly the Love Actually moment he was hoping for. Keep thinking of what other film scene reflects such a massively embarrassing moment. Maybe your viewers would have some ideas. Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. It certainly was pretty embarrassing. Not as embarrassing, though, as his phone calls to the Lionesses, because, of course, he missed their appearance at Downing Street yesterday after they celebrated their win in the Euros. Have a look at this.
Fantastic to see you all and welcome to Downing Street.
Yeah, it's lovely here.
And I just wanted to say a huge congratulations to you and to the whole team. It was an absolutely amazing victory and you must have felt the eyes and ears of the whole country on you last night.
Thanks for supporting us. You were there at the Euros in 22 in England. Yesterday you joined again with your family.
You made history so many times over last night.
Thank you so much for having us.
Fantastic.
An honour to be here. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You know, unbelievable stuff, isn't it? Of course, page 12 actually today in The Sun, written by Oliver Harvey, the chief feature writer. It's all about the joy of being English because, of course, after the game finished, Chloe Kelly came out and said, I'm so proud to be English. So The Sun, rather cleverly, have put Oliver Harvey in an England football shirt and said, why don't you write about how proud it is to be an English person? So here he is. Oliver, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Good to see you. We were all commenting on this yesterday because you don't hear people saying it very often. It was actually quite refreshing that suddenly somebody was actually out loud and proud going, I'm so proud to be English. We've got English blood running through our veins. It was amazing.
Well, it was a sheer shock of it. I was sitting there watching it and I sort of shouted out, I can't believe someone said that, because you just don't hear that in public life.
No.
You don't hear people saying they're proud to be English. And why not? Why don't they say it?
I know, it's really refreshing, and it shouldn't be unusual, should it?
No, it's a sort of sentiment. If you're at certain metropolitan dinner parties, you definitely get a quizzical eyebrow and might even go, sling your hook, mate. I mean, we all remember Emily Thornberry's famous sneering...
Oh, yeah.
But it was tweet then about an England flag and a white van, if you remember. She had to resign from the shadow cabinet. So...
Right.
So certain portions of the left, certain elites have had a problem with Englishness and its expression.
Yeah.
And, you know, it goes right down to St. George's Day, which is comparably muted. You look at St. Patrick's, it's a sea of a carnival green. We're a little bit muted here with our national celebration and our patriotism. Go to America, which I have recently. The amount of people who've got Old Glory, the flag in their garden, is unreal. And it isn't just Republicans. It's not MAGA. It's everybody. The Dems have got it. Everyone's proud. Right. Everyone's proud of their country. Talks their country up. we're very good at talking our country down.
Well, we are, because even in the British Isles, we are kind of alone in that. Because in Scotland, you know, St Andrew's Day is quite a big deal. You see a lot of saltires flying around. Even in Wales, where I spent quite a lot of time early part of this century, you know, they're very proud of the Welsh flag and the Welsh identity. Same in Northern Ireland. But in England, it's kind of, you know, it's frowned upon. In fact, it was just the other day, I think, that I saw on social media. There was a guy pulled over by the police because he had a load of flags in the back of a lorry, England flags, and he was pulled over by police asking what he was doing. And he was like, well, I'm going to go to one of the fan zones and distribute them because it's all about the football. And they were like, oh, right. We thought you might be somebody from the far right with a lot of England flags.
But that's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But some people argue that part of Englishness is that reticence, is that, you know, we don't like to shout our patriotism from the heights. But I think these two young women, these lionesses, have in a way helped reinvent it or reinvigorate what it means to be English, because they certainly weren't hiding the light under the bushel. They went out, one of the first thoughts they had was, I'm proud to be English. Now, I didn't get the sense that was PR'd. I didn't get the sense that someone had told them to say that at all.
No.
I think that's what they viscerally felt, and they were happy to do it, and they were representing a diverse team, and good on them.
Yeah. Also, you got the sense that they actually were really proud to be representing their country, which you don't always get from the male England team, do you? You don't always get the sense that that's what they're doing. You get the sense that they're kind of slightly reluctantly turning up for less than sort of £300,000 a week to play in a game which they're not that bothered about.
Well, yeah, I mean, for the men, sometimes an international game is not nearly as big as occasion it is playing for their club. You know, a Premiership game against two of the big six is bigger than an England qualifying now. It just is.
Yeah. And so do you think this might signal a new era, if you like, because you've written about that in a way that, you know, perhaps people will see what happened with Chloe and Hannah, and they'll say, well, maybe we could do that.
Certainly, I think so. And also, it isn't politicians saying this. It isn't, you know, vice chancellors. It isn't, I don't know, people with, you know, in the public eye saying it's these lionesses, it's young people.
Yeah.
It's young people that are happy with the mantle of Englishness, and they're not embarrassed by it. I do think that. I do think it will change. And, you know, you saw that at Southend Airport yesterday, those little girls waving the St George flag, you know.
Right. Yeah, it's very refreshing to see. Well, let's hope it turns into something that the country can sort of get behind instead of being ashamed of it, which they've been sort of told to be. And I think as well for people like Starmer and the government, the Labour government in particular, you know, they've always been a bit sort of shy, haven't they, about promoting, you know, Britain or indeed England.
Well, let's go back to after the war, rebuilding the country. Clement Attlee was a very, very proud Englishman, very proud Brit, very patriotic. That changed, and you know, we went into, you know, you see Corbyn didn't sing the national anthem at the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Britain, famously at St Paul's Cathedral.
Right.
I mean, that did for him as much as anything, because people were looking at working class people who love their country, who you know, who love their flag, who love their anthem, were just totally turned off by that.
Yeah. No, totally, absolutely right. Oliver, good to see you. Great piece. Page 12 of The Sun today. Like Chloe and Hannah, we need to be more proud of our Englishness. Oliver Harvey there, columnist at The Sun. One here from Ian in Somerset. Loving the show, and especially Trump's input, but I have to ask if Starmer should think of sacking his thousands of PR people and saving the country a few million, as they're obviously doing nothing for their wages. Well, you might say that. Ernie says this: I really wanted Sadiq Khan to walk in on Trump and Starmer like the scene from Dirty Dancing, and Sadiq grabbing Starmer by the hand and saying, nobody puts my friend Keir in the corner. Right, OK, you know that film better than I do, I have to say. Starmer hasn't put a tweet or a video out yet. The reason is because his team are trying to edit the bad bits out, and there were so many bad bits, there's nothing OK left to put together, says Joe from Norfolk. Well, I wonder if that's true as well. Morning, Mike. Have you got the clip of what the Donald said about Khan as your ringtone? It was priceless. Have a good day, says Sue in Sheffield. He's a nasty man. He's nasty. Let's get Carl on Migrant Hotels.
Hi, Mike. Carl in Bear. Just watching your clips about the hotels. These migrants coming over, getting everything for free. When I'm having to pay my tax bill at the end of July. I'm working every day. And these lot are just coming over, getting everything for free. Sitting in hotels, smoking, drinking. Some of them have 2 mobile phones. Free meals, free dinner, free tea. What's Keir Starmer doing? Bringing in laws so I'm not allowed to talk about it. What's going on with this country?
I know, it's a very good question, that, because I just paid my taxes as well, because coming up to the end of July, that's when everybody pays their taxes, particularly if you're self-employed. It's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? The amount of money that you have to fork out to give to these people so that they can have a lovely time sitting around in a hotel. Here's another clip.
Louis Vuitton travel bag, trainer collection. One thing I will say for the residents at Copthorne Hotel, they're very into their brands, brand clothing, trainers, jewellery, consoles, perfume collections. They are very brand aware. Golf shoes, we have aspiring golfers, and the residents are free to leave for the day and go to work, and or to go and play golf or wherever they want. So there's no restriction on going from the hotel or staying away from the hotel for the residents. And they do love their jewellery.
That's nice, isn't it? So they've got jewellery, golf shoes, they've got some, Louis Vuitton bags knocking around, some perfume. It's quite remarkable, isn't it? Quite ridiculous what is actually going on. Incredible. I've had a little correction, by the way. I can't find it right now, but thank you to who sent it in. The Copthorne is in West Sussex, of course, near Crawley in West Sussex, near Gatwick Airport. I said it was Surrey earlier, so I got that wrong. West Sussex is where it is, the Copthorne Hotel. They're having a great time, aren't they? They can go out and work, which they're not supposed to do. They can go out and play golf. Presumably they get to do that for nothing. And they can buy perfume, and they can buy bags, and they can buy branded clothing. It's a lovely old life, isn't it? Plus all the free food. Luxury living. Meanwhile, I've just given thousands to the taxman, which doesn't make me feel great, has to be said. 8:35.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. It's 8:37. Of course, we are here until 10 o'clock for your delectation. If you've got a story, by the way, that's affected you or your family and you think we should know about it or investigate it further, do email us at tips@talk.tv. Coming up later on in the show, Kemi Badenoch's going to be joining us, leader of the Conservative Party, of course. Alan in Hertfordshire says, if the leader of the free world tells you Europe is finished, UK borders are a joke and the people coming in are not the best, like we've been gaslit to believe, Starmer better pay attention. And if he doesn't, it's proof he's working against the UK. Yeah, interesting. And Steve says this: any chance you at Talk could liaise with the BBC News and provide them with a video clip of the luxury migrant feeding station in the hotel? Though I doubt our nation's broadcaster would show it. Oh yes, I'm sure they wouldn't. Absolutely not. We're going to talk now to John Pugh, Sefton Lib Dem councillor, a former Southport MP, because it's 1 year today since those terrible events in Southport, which resulted in the brutal killings of 3 little girls and the terrible injuries sustained by several other people. John is with us now to remember that terrible day. John, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Police apparently are trying to be very careful that this doesn't turn into some kind of, kind of hate fest. But I mean, I'm not sure that's really the point of what we're doing here. We're sort of here to remember those 3 little girls, and the 3-minute silence is going to be held, I think, later on today, and flags are going to be lowered on public buildings. I mean, I think there's not much really you can say a year on, is there?
Not a great deal, and the tragedy is what it is. But having spoken to the families and to people who've been more closely involved with events than I have been, there's a need and a desire to get some positive legacy out of this. I know it sounds strange. It was a very dreadful, awful happening that nobody would wish upon anybody or any town. But I think people want to build a legacy and remember that, the very fact that we lost children shows to us really the joy that children can bring, and I think the families that are most immediately affected, those that have had children killed, have all set up independent charities to give children an opportunity to enjoy life, to develop their talents, to develop in ways that the poor kids that were killed never could. And I think that's to some extent going to be the theme of the day. There will be a solemn remembrance, I'm absolutely sure, but people will be looking for a way in which a positive legacy can be generated from these absolutely awful events.
Yeah, because I mean, the inquiry wasn't that long ago, was it, when we heard terrible stories from some of the families of the survivors of the attack?
Yeah, we forget sometimes that there are quite a lot of people affected. I mean, obviously, the families that lost their children are affected the worst, but a lot of people are going to be affected all their lives by these events, and some people will be severely traumatized for a good while to come, I think, and take a while to get over it. And for them, this day is obviously a sensitive time, and that's why there's been arrangements made for people to have a quiet moment, to seek counselling if that's what's required, to get any help. The mental health of the people that live and survive is quite as important.
Yes, absolutely right. And in terms of the way that the town itself has kind of been for the last year, I mean, it can be a terrible kind of pall, I suppose, that hangs over the place. How have the people been generally?
Well, I think people in Southport recognise that, in a sense, the attack had nothing to do with Southport or the social circumstances of Southport. But know that, in a sense, in terms of the international image, if anybody mentions the word Southport now anywhere in the globe, and the next word they'll come out with is killing. And that's not an image, association where we're comfortable with, happy with, wish to endure, which is why there's a feeling that we need to make Southport a place where children are welcome, safe, appreciated and loved.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, and we'll be remembering them, of course, throughout the course of the day today. John Pugh, Sefton Lib Dem councillor, former Southport MP as well. Those 3 little girls murdered, 6-year-old BB King, Elsie Dot Stancombe, who was 7, and Alice De Silva Aguiar, who was just 9, and they've asked for privacy to deal with an extremely painful and personal time, which of course we will give them. But there's also quite a few other families who were very badly affected by what happened on that terrible day as well. We're going to talk about it, I'm sure, throughout the day. Next, coming up though, we'll talk to Isabelle Oakshot.
How realistic do you think a ceasefire is this week?
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.
What are you looking for here?
An end. A real end.
Well, all of a sudden he's a big shot because he has the U.S. on his side. I am very disappointed with President Putin. He'll talk so beautifully and then he'll bomb people at night.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:45. Coming up, we're going to be speaking to Kemi Badenoch in the next hour. Some extraordinary things going on some other networks, shall we say. Peter Kyle, who is the Science and Technology Minister, I believe, has been on Sky News basically slagging off Nigel Farage. He says, effectively, if you want to overturn the Online Safety Act, you are basically on the side of predators. It's as simple as that. And he's likened Nigel Farage to being on the same side as Jimmy Savile. Which is just unbelievable. But Nigel Farage has said that his comments are disgusting. He should do the right thing and apologise, and I think he probably should do the right thing and apologise. Whether he will or not, we don't know. And let's talk to Isabelle Oakshot, though, Talk's international correspondent, because we've been showing you this morning some astonishing footage taken by hotel contractor Aston Knight, which Isabelle helped to obtain. It gives unparalleled access to life inside a migrant hotel. He worked there and lived on site for 3 months, the Copthorne Hotel in West Sussex, near Gatwick Airport in Crawley, which is a place I know quite well. I think there's a golf course attached to it. Peter Blexley said he played golf there. I've certainly done it as well. But you've seen, luxurious food being served up to these characters. You've got people smoking drugs in the rooms, smoking cigarettes, obviously collecting all manner of goodies. They're walking around wearing, branded clothing. They're buying all sorts of things or stealing them. Nobody knows. Luxury living is what we're calling it. Isabelle, very good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, I don't think that's an exaggeration, actually. This is to the best of my knowledge, this is the first ever behind-the-scenes look at what goes on inside migrant hotels. No one ever has managed to get this kind of access. Because the government makes it really difficult. All the contractors that run these hotels on behalf of the Home Office make employees sign really terrifying non-disclosure agreements. But our guy got in because he didn't work for those companies. He was a self-employed contractor and he had incredible access. And he documented it all over a period of 3 months. And it's just revelation after revelation after revelation. I mean, who knew? I certainly didn't, that female migrants are, as he puts it, deliberately setting out to get pregnant while they're in migrant hotels in order to reinforce their right to remain. And Aston Knight himself said he was propositioned 3 times by women who were trying to get pregnant, and indeed that there had been 10 babies born in the migrant hotel in the time of its existence. And then you've got the hotel staff basically far too close really to the so-called service users. Nobody's really monitoring what the service users are up to. They seem to be free, as I think I heard you say earlier, to come and go.
Yeah.
It was very obvious that most of the men were working, one as a tattoo artist, others on construction sites, and all while living at our expense. Not 3 meals a day, Mike, 4 meals a day, because you get a 4th one delivered to your door. bedroom service, room service, if you like, the kind of thing that you and I normally have to pay a great deal of money for if we can afford it at all.
I know, it is absolutely extraordinary. We've got another clip here, a new one, we haven't seen it yet. Here he is having a conversation with one of the residents.
You come over on the boat?
Come from the boat, yeah.
From Sudan?
From Sudan.
And now you got the visa?
I get visa, yeah. I have right in the country now.
Well,
you want to see how I'm coming here?
Welcome to the UK. Yeah, show me, show me.
Show you. That's how I'm coming here.
That is amazing.
This is
dangerous.
Danger. 5 days, no water, no food.
How much does it cost?
Money?
Yeah.
$3,000.
3,000? What, US dollar?
Yeah, US dollar.
This is wild.
Yeah. We're on the big boat now.
Well, let me say, welcome to England. Congratulations on getting your visa.
Thank you so much, brother.
Take care, bro.
So, what has he got a visa for exactly, Isabelle, do you think?
Well, I don't really believe him. I mean, maybe he's just been granted a right to remain. Doesn't look like a high-skilled individual to me. And ask yourself, how did somebody like that, who felt the need to come over on a boat, raise $3,000 US
right.
for the journey? Most of the people come from countries like Eritrea, Sudan, Somalia, where average annual earnings are around the cost or even less than the cost of taking a boat over, unless you're coming over for free because you're working for the criminal gangs. So none of this really stacks up. And, you know, the thing that struck me, and I'd encourage anyone who can to look at the whole video by Aston Knight, which is available on YouTube, despite the best efforts of the authorities to have it taken down. What will really strike you is the scale of this thing, the sheer number of public services and publicly funded things that are being provided on a daily basis at that hotel. It's just one hotel out of hundreds. You've got the police turning up basically every single day. You've got the NHS. You've got, according to Aston Knight, private ambulances. What? Why? How?
Yeah.
You've got a fleet of taxis every morning taking children to school. You've got the extensive and lavish catering. You've got the laundry services. You've got all the staff that are basically there serving hand and foot these people who simply leave their rubbish on the floor or dump it outside their bedrooms. I mean, this is just absolutely mind-boggling.
It really is, and it does, as you say, give an insight into what they can do. You know, we've already seen all the designer gear that they seem to have. Somebody points out on Twitter today that, you know, they're more than likely they've probably stolen it. They might be, for all we know, shoplifting it. We saw that story in The Sun last week, didn't we, about the migrant gang who was staying in a hotel up in North London, who would on a daily basis coming into the West End and just going on a shoplifting spree to lift anything that they basically wanted. Nobody appears to be monitoring what they do, how they live, you know, what they do, how they spend their time, what they do during the day. Some of them certainly are have got, you know, drug paraphernalia in the room. Looks like they're smoking cannabis, if nothing else. We know of other stories where people have been dealing cocaine out of these hotels. I mean, it's absolutely staggering. I heard a story the other day of how a couple of hotels which have been tried to be shut down have not been able to shut down because 2 or 3 of the residents have refused to leave.
Well, you've got, I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, in this particular expose, there was a resident there who was on a hunger strike, and he spent several days just standing out in silent protest. Clearly had mental health problems. Do you know why he was on hunger strike, what he was protesting about?
No.
Guess what? Wanted to go back to Sudan. Eventually, the guy was arrested, having been accused of assaulting somebody.
Yeah.
You know, this is just absolutely insane, the whole thing. And I just don't know how much more the British taxpayer can be expected to tolerate. In my view, what this migrant hotel shows lifts the lid on what is likely going on in similar settings up and down the country. And I'm afraid it brings the entire system into disrepute and it should all be shut forthwith.
Yes, and this is why people are demonstrating outside more and more of these hotels, which Keir Starmer continues to ignore, by the way, as if it isn't happening. We've got another clip here. These are some of the services that they can get in the hotel.
Staff also have to deal with cases like this young gentleman who is peacefully protesting on a hunger strike and all that comes with it, with the mental health care workers and ambulance staff that have to come in. There's almost like another hidden cost here, I suppose, to the scheme, which is public services in general, particularly the NHS and the police and private ambulances. There's also midwives, crisis team workers, mental health care workers, social workers, and there's multiple visits every day from multiple different public services that have to deal with all sorts of issues, from assaults and sexual assaults and drugs and gangs to pregnancies and injuries, all of this which is obviously not covered in the figures of the cost of the scheme.
Yeah, well, I guess that'll be where the private ambulances come in, right?
Well, he didn't mention in that particular bit about the band and musicians and entertainers that are coming in as well. You know, it seems to me that these occupants of the hotels have found pretty good ways to entertain themselves, whether it's making a living on the black market or smoking drugs or whatever else it is they're doing, deliberately trying to get pregnant. But no, that's not enough. Apparently the taxpayer at that particular hotel is also funding musical entertainment and music lessons for the occupants. I mean, this is completely and utterly unsustainable. And I just don't know how any minister could possibly defend what we are seeing in those images. And it's worth pointing out that Aston Knight is not a member of any political party. He's not particularly, even necessarily, or he didn't start out on this project, necessarily particularly anti-migrant hotel. But by the end of it, he sure as hell was of the view that this is a complete and utter racket.
Yes, of course it is. And there are people getting very rich off the back of it as well. And that's the other bit, I think, that sustains it. Because, you know, Starmer and his cohorts have said that they're going to do something about closing these places down. But, of course, what they're going to then have to do is provide the same kind of service, effectively, in a private residence. Because how are you going to move people out of this hotel, for example, and say to them, right, now you're going to live in a house, but you're not going to have any money, so you won't be able to eat, and you won't be able to clean, and you won't be able to wash, and you won't be able to do anything. You know, so they're going to have to presumably take them out of these hotels and subsidise their living in another fashion.
Well, you know, you and I know that there's another solution to this, which is called just deport them, because the majority of people don't have a justifiable claim. And I think it's got to the point where the country is just about ready to explode. You know, we're a year on from the tragic Southport murders, and what followed that was a wave of riots. And what those riots were really about, actually, was frustration up and down the country with illegal immigration. What lessons has Keir Starmer and his cabinet learned since then? Well, I would argue pretty much nothing.
Yeah, nothing at all. Because, as I say, you know, all weekend, I wrote about this week as well, all weekend, all he was tweeting about was Gaza. All he wanted to talk about was Gaza. He then sort of switched up to the Lionesses when they won the football on Sunday night. But he has not addressed the growing anger in the country, which is really seriously growing now in all parts of the country, outside of these migrant hotels where people want them shut down. They're sick to death of the crime. They're sick to death of the comings and goings. They're sick to death of the money and all the cost of it all. And yet he doesn't even mention it in any way, shape or form. Nobody mentions it.
It's utterly bizarre, isn't it? I mean, you think back to previous Labour leaders, you know, look back to Tony Blair. He would never have just been silent as the country, kind of the mood of the nation absolutely broils. But I'm afraid Keir Starmer simply doesn't get it. I don't think he understands. I don't think he gets out enough into the communities that are most impacted by these facilities. And ideologically, I just think he doesn't understand. Something is missing in that man's brain. You know, the political radar just isn't there to actually sense that this is not something the taxpayer is willing to continue to support. And, you know, my fear is that when he finally is forced into acknowledging it, it's going to be very lame words. And, you know, knowing him and his track record, a few weeks later, he'll say he regrets saying it anyway.
Yeah. No doubt. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Fantastic footage that we've got. Isabelle, thanks for obtaining it for us. Isabelle Oakshot, Talks international correspondent, who got this to us through Aston Knight, a man who was working in the Copthorne Hotel in West Sussex. Unprecedented access reveals PlayStation 5s, Apple Mac computers, free Wi-Fi, designer clothes, 4-poster beds, cigarettes, alcohol, cannabis. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. It's extraordinary. Tim says this: my daughter last night saw the Lionesses meet Angela Rayner. Her immediate response was, I hope they've had a few or are still mullered from last night. God help them if they're not. Well, true. Good morning, Mike. The reason why Starmer denies censoring is because he knows it's wrong and is embarrassed to be called out. If he felt it was right and ethically and morally correct, he would be defending it. Keep on playing the Trump interview. Trump knows what he's doing. He's calling him out on what he isn't doing. It's amusing watching him squirm, says Bernie. Absolutely right. Coming up in the next hour, Kemi Badenoch's going to join us. She is, of course, the leader of the Conservative Party. We'll be playing her some of the Trump clips and asking her what she wants to do about the striking doctors. This, of course, is the home of common sense. We are Talk. It's Morning Glory. Back after the news.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 9. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. We are into the final hour of the show. Kemi Badenoch's going to be here in a little while, and if you miss any of it, of course, don't worry, because we've got a podcast that goes out every single weekday after 10 o'clock as soon as we finish the best bits of it. And the next bit we're going to do will be in, of course, the best bits of it. It's Dave Woodings here. Thank you very much indeed. Former fiscal editor of The Sun, former editor of the Daily Express. I mean, the list of your previous jobs goes on and on, really, but I'll stop at that. We'll talk to him about Donald Trump yesterday up in Scotland. Massive humiliation, I'm saying, for Keir Starmer, because literally everything that he said was something that didn't really seem to ring true, I'm afraid. He talked a little bit about Gaza. We know that he wants to recognise Palestine as a state at some point, but we don't know when exactly. We had a commentator on from Israel earlier on saying it's all a bit performative and it all doesn't really mean very much of anything. It certainly doesn't mean anything unless you get Hamas to surrender, give up all the hostages and clear off, quite frankly. But basically, the impression is that Starmer was schooled by Donald Trump. He told him how to win an election. He said, cut taxes, cut immigration, and give up on all of this green nonsense, because he said wind is a disaster. And Starmer just kind of sat there nodding and pretended that, no, we're not censoring the public at all, absolutely not. Never mind what you've heard about the online safety bill. And also, of course, he said we're having a rich mix of different types of energy, when in fact they're trying to kill off oil and gas altogether. I don't know what to tell you. 0344 499 1000. The doctors are on the front page of the Times today because it looks like they're being criticised by the NHS for actually harming patients. They're still out on strike. This is day 5 of their strike, so they should be back at work tomorrow. But basically, the NHS is saying they're being totally irresponsible because they're putting lives at risk and people are dying as a result of their strike. And the nurses are going to be next, by the way. 0344 499 1000 is the number. We'll be here, of course, all the way through until 10 o'clock. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. And this from John, which is typical, really, of what we hear all the time. He says, Mike, do you watch this on the BBC News at 10, what happened with Trump? I kid you not, they left out literally everything we saw today that embarrassed Keir Starmer. Not one of the embarrassing questions were covered. They edited them all out and then started banging on about Gaza. Well, that's the thing. I don't know why people do that, but David Woodings here. Very good morning to you, Dave.
Morning.
You could probably explain it better than me. I mean, the news coverage of Keir Starmer's visit to Scotland was slightly different from our coverage of Keir Starmer's visit to Scotland, because this morning we've just been playing one clip after another, which basically shows Starmer to be a bit of a sort of pointless puppet sitting next to Donald Trump, really not saying very much.
Yeah, I mean, obviously newspaper men and women and journalists in the broadcast media all take their own viewpoint on what they think the best line of the story is.
Right.
Back in newspapers, you get a hammering in the office the next day if you went on the wrong line that everybody else had gone on. But in broadcasting, particularly the BBC, they seem to have their own agenda very often, and they go with that. And I suppose that's a free media. People like to choose what they want.
Well, it's true, but except for people until now, when they had the alternative of talk and some other alternative, they thought that was the news, and they'd see what was on the BBC and just assume, well, that must have been what happened. You know, Starmer made a good fist of talking about Gaza, and Donald Trump sort of sat there and said, oh yeah, it's terrible watching this awful kind of, you know, famine and cruelty unfold before our very eyes. But that's not really the story, because the real story, to me, is well, let's start with this. Trump telling Starmer how to win the election. Check this out.
Politics is pretty simple. It's I assume there's a thing going on between you and Nigel, and it's okay, you know, it's two parties. But generally speaking, the one who cuts taxes the most, the one who gives you the lowest energy prices and the best kind of energy, the one that keeps you out of wars, he's kept you out of wars, but the one that keeps you out of wars, you know, you have a few basics, and you can go back 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, whoever does these things, but low taxes, keep us safe, keep us out of wars, no crime, stop the crime. And in your case, a big immigration component, you know, because I know that your attitude has become strong on immigration, strong on the toughness of immigration. But I think whoever's going to be, I think I won because we had a lousy president, to be honest with you. We had an incompetent president. But I won because I was very strong on immigration.
And he did. And he did what he said he was going to do, and he stopped people coming into the country. And in fact, he said at one point in this little interview that he was giving that, you know, literally 0 people are now entering America illegally because of the steps that he took. And Starmer was just kind of sitting there, and you imagine him thinking to himself, he's telling me I should do all the things that I'm not doing, you know. And I mean, he said, you're cracking down on immigration. Well, he's not, is he?
No, he's not. And of course, it was toe curling for him. I mean, you could see him squirming in a chair, sitting there being lectured by a president who is great at ad-libbing or bad at ad-libbing. He doesn't seem to have any political draft of what he's going to say before he goes out there. He's doing it all
he
on the
just
hoof.
talks like an ordinary, again, why people like him and why people like Nigel Farage, they talk like ordinary people. They don't talk like politicians. They don't do that kind of Keir Starmer, you know, we're fixing the foundations and making, you know, nonsense
and you
speeches.
can almost hear the cogs whirring round in Keir Starmer's head thinking, get me out of here. What's he going to say next? I wish I was in Downing Street with the Lionesses.
Well, to be honest, you know,
I
I said this earlier, it would have been probably a smarter play to have stayed in Downing Street, because that gets you on the front page of The Sun, front page of almost all the tabloids.
And not
Lionesses,
Angela Rayner, more importantly.
Exactly, not Angela Rayner, outside of Downing Street, you know, forward-thinking, looking modern, you know, with a load of female athletes around you. You know, it's a win picture for him. And instead, because of his obsession with international affairs and his kind of need to creep to Donald Trump, he disappears off to Scotland, and I bet you're right. I bet he wishes he'd never gone.
And the other thing, of course, it looked like that Donald Trump was hosting the Prime Minister instead of the Prime Minister being the leader of the United Kingdom and the President being the guest.
He's in the ballroom at
Turnberry,
which is a fantastic hotel. I've been there many times, and it's a great golf course. And of course, he doesn't play. If he played golf, I could see why he would go, because he'd go, right, I tell you what, I'm going to go play 18 holes with Donald Trump and watch him drop the ball where he's not supposed to and then hit it onto the green, you know. And when he says he got a 4, you go, you sure it wasn't a 6? All that. But, you know, he doesn't even play golf, so there wasn't really there was no kind of bonding going on. It was just, as you say, it looked like Donald Trump was hosting him in the White House when it was actually the ballroom of a British hotel that he happens to own.
And, of course, this clip you've just shown, Mike, of how to win an election, it wasn't really 4 points on how to win an election. It was 4 points of where you're mucking it up. You know, migration, bad, crime, rocketing, going through the roof, 20% up in the last year. And then taxes, the highest taxes in modern history.
Well, we got stories today saying 50,000 British firms currently on the brink of collapse as a result of Rachel Reeves's budget. You know, he's not getting anything right, is he?
No, absolutely. And all it seemed to do was to highlight where he's going wrong rather than tell him how he's going to win the election. We know that he's not going to get migration down.
No.
We hope he is, because everybody wants it down. And if he can do that, he may bring crime down as well.
Well, yeah, but he's showing no sign of it, because with every statement that he makes, and in fact we can have the one on immigration, because he actually tells what at the very least I'm going to refer to as a fib, because he talks about how they're cracking down on immigration, they've got a new deal with France, but it doesn't mean anything because it hasn't actually happened. Have a look at this.
If you're stopping immigration and stopping the wrong people, I give my hats are off to you. You're doing not a good thing, you're doing a fantastic thing. So I know nothing about the boats. But if the boats are loaded up with bad people, and they usually are, because, you know, other countries don't send their best.
We just signed an agreement to return them, and we've returned 35,000, in fact, out of the first year of this Labour government, of people who shouldn't be in this country. So we're very pleased that we're getting on with returning people who've got no right to be here.
Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And they've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore, as you know.
See, again, you know, a disingenuous reply there from Starmer, because we know the 35,000 people that he sent back was last November. Nobody's gone since then, and about the large bulk of them, I think 25,000 of them, were in fact people who volunteered to go. And the only boat people that went, I think, was about 2,500. So, you know, sort of making out that, oh, we're on top of it, we're kicking people out of the country. They're not.
And this is going to be a record year, we think, for migrants coming over on small boats.
Exactly.
And, of course, we've had...
And boats aren't so small anymore, either.
What we didn't talk about was the migrant hotel crisis, which is in every community, or in lots of communities.
Well, he's kind of ignoring that as well. You know, he spent all weekend talking about Gaza, right? Then he talked about the Lionesses, and now he's on to, you know, talking about Southport today. He hasn't said, you know, he hasn't put any social media out about the Trump visit. He just hasn't put any out, almost as if it didn't happen.
Well, because I don't think it does him any good.
No, it doesn't.
I think, I mean, there's nothing you can take from that. That is good. Apart from, of course, the fact that this deal was done with the European Union on tariffs, which makes Keir Starmer look to have got a better view, but that's down to Brexit.
Exactly, and he can't say anything about that because he's mates with Ursula von der Leyen, who was even more humiliated the day before, because the euro's plunged as a result of the deal that she's done, and all the European leaders are saying she's made a complete and utter rick of it, you know, because she's given in to Trump, and they're now paying a huge tariff of 15% on everything going into America, and they're having to buy loads of American stuff.
Yeah, and it's shown that, you know, Europe will buckle when they need to. Yeah, as you say, you've had the leader of Hungary saying she's been eating for breakfast and she looks weak.
Yeah.
You've had France saying it's a dark days for the European Union. It's not good for Europe.
No, it's not. And Starmer can't look like he's gloating, because then they'll go, well, I thought you were our friend. I thought you were one of us.
And he's just actually buckled himself in terms of getting his reset.
Yeah.
Bowing to a few of the European rules and regulations in order to get this deal with Europe. When, of course, Trump's shown the art of the deal.
Yeah, he has. We've actually been playing this morning, because we've got some exclusive access to it, some footage of inside of a migrant hotel. I don't know whether you've seen any of this. This is inside of the hotel, the Copthorne Hotel down in West Sussex near Crawley, which I've certainly been to, because I'm pretty sure there's a golf course right there as well. This has been a migrant hotel for some time, for some years. We've got a guy called Aston Knight who was working in there as a hotel contractor, and he's filmed what it's like in there. Have a look at this.
I have been quite surprised at the level of luxury that is enjoyed by many of the residents who live at Copthorne Hotel. When I thought of the term illegal migrant hotel, I definitely had a far less luxurious accommodation in my mental image. Perhaps what I found more surprising is the level of affluence of some of the residents themselves as well. So before the housekeeping staff make their rounds, the bedrooms do get rather messy. I mean, you can see here cigarettes and weed and ash all over the tables, banana skins left everywhere, bags of rubbish on the floor, weed grinder, weed and ash all over the desk, in stark contrast to the relative luxury enjoyed by the service users at Copthorne Hotel, in the staff accommodation block, where I have kindly been gifted a room for the duration of my stay. It is anything but a luxurious 4-star hotel. The rooms are like boxes, there's no Wi-Fi, no televisions, the signal is terrible. It is literally a box with a bed and a sink.
So there you've got, you know, illegal migrants smoking in a hotel, which you and I can't do, smoking weed in a hotel, which you and I certainly can't do, buying weed, presumably with the money that they get given for their sort of subsistence or whatever it is, 3 meals a day, sometimes 4. Just extraordinary.
Absolutely, and the government would have us think that then these are not luxury hotels they're staying in. These are just accommodation to get them by and spare rooms. You look at that and you think, a lot of people will be thinking, I wish I could live in that, and I'm getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day to go and work.
So many people now messaging me every single day to say, I don't know why I'm bothering working, you know. Today we're getting very close to the end of July. People like me and many others will be paying their taxes, you know, on the 6 monthly basis. If you're self-employed, that's what you have to do. You know, come the end of July, thousands of pounds to the government, going straight to these characters. And you just think, what am I bothering for?
Absolutely, and that's the...
And people get angry about it as well.
It's the level of disillusionment and anger and frustration that nobody seems to be listening to the concerns. And you know, worse so, when people go out and protest peacefully, they're accused of being far-right hooligans.
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine who was out in Epping at the demonstration on Sunday, and there were 500 police there, right, for a gathering of very peaceful people who are all, you know, relatively, you know, family-oriented. There were kids there, you know, mothers, fathers, just standing, demonstrating very peacefully, and then all the lefties turned up. And there was a few hundred of them, and they started calling them scum and shouting horrible, like, racial epithets at them and all the rest of it. And the police only arrested 3 people, but why were there 500 of them there? And last week, you know, the chief of Essex Police said that they were going to put a sort of, you know, a clamp down on anybody coming from outside of Epping. And then suddenly that was all lifted, and there was no dispersal order, and they were able to come and cause trouble. And there's going to be something terrible that happens at some point in one of these demonstrations. They're in Canary Wharf doing it, they're in Aldershot doing it, they're in Leeds doing it, you know, up in Manchester, in Altrincham. You know, it's happening everywhere.
Yeah, and this is only recently started where you've got women taking part. They feel unsafe. Some of them don't like walking past the Bell Hotel in Epping. I mean, there was one woman who said she used to go for a walk with her daughter past the hotel. Now she drives past.
She avoids it
because of the the remarks. It doesn't mean all migrants are like that, but there's a lot of men who've come over here, young men, undocumented, and that's an element of fear there. Who are these people? Where do they come from?
And we have got stats that say some people from certain countries are more likely to commit these kinds of offences.
Well, Eritreans and Afghans, who are among the highest number of people who've come over on small boats, 22
Well, we've
times.
imported plenty of Afghans by sort of under cover of darkness on secret planes that have come in here for a year, you know?
Well, we can't report that. Oh, we can now, but
we
couldn't
can now.
before for a couple of years. It's 22% more likely to commit a sexual offence. And there was a story in The Sun yesterday which said that I think it was 2,800 sexual offences were carried out by foreign nationals in London over the last 7 years. That's 40% of all sexual crime carried out in the capital.
I know. It's absolutely shocking. And people are not stupid. You know, they can read these stories and they can see for themselves what's going on, and they can see the changing face of Britain, and they're not happy about it. And, you know, Starmer needs to recognise that, you know, he said a while ago, I get it, right? But he clearly doesn't get it. And he needs to, otherwise, you know, there's going to be a problem.
You don't hear very much either from Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, on this. I don't think her heart's in this.
No.
I think that a lot of Labour people, and probably Keir Starmer as well, this isn't really their comfort zone, dealing with migration.
No.
They're the sort of people, I'm not saying...
They want to let them all in, don't they?
Well, of course, remember Andrew Neither, back during an advisor in the Blair years, said that he was bringing in more migration, mass migration, to rub the noses of the right wing voters into diversity, and so it's clear it was a deliberate ploy then. And I think that a lot of people on the left do like open doors migration.
Oh, they do,
and they feel uncomfortable about cracking down on this, but they know that the only way to win the next election is to have some kind of impact on these big figures, and they know it's overtaken the health service now. We've got huge waiting lists for treatment, but the biggest concern people have now is migration. It's overtaken it long since.
Absolutely right, and it has been for some time. David, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. David Woodings, journalist, political commentator, of course, right here on Talk. Coming up 20 minutes past 9, Kemi Badenoch's going to join us soon. We'll get your calls and your questions to her as well. This is Morning Glory.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 9:23. How about this from Aki? Why are the illegals given £50 a week to spend on weed when they get 3 good meals a day? Isn't that enough for them? And Chris says, morning, Mike, how come illegals are smoking inside the hotels? I thought smoking inside buildings was illegal. Oh, I forgot. Nothing is illegal for illegals. Yeah, well, Yvette Cooper made it a double illegal for them to come on a boat because apparently climbing onto a boat with too many people in it is also illegal, as well as coming on a boat being illegal. So it's double illegal, but don't worry, you can come in anyway, and then you can do some more illegal stuff when you get to the hotel because you can do anything you like because you're illegal. Great, isn't it? So why should we actually bother to obey the law? Why should we bother to pay our taxes? Why on earth should we contribute to the Exchequer, which wants to give all of our money away to a bunch of people who are simply illegal? It doesn't make any sense. We're going to talk to Gareth Wyn-Jones in a moment. Kemi Badenoch's coming up in a little while as well. We've got some questions for her. If you've got any more for her, do put them to us. We'll try and get them to her. Here's Donald Trump talking to Keir Starmer yesterday about farming.
Well, we ended the estate tax. There is no estate tax on farmers. So when a parent leaves their farm, because again, a lot of these farms, they don't make a lot of money, but it's a way of life, and they love their way of life, and they love that dirt. That dirt is the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. They love it. I mean, they're farmers. They love doing it. They don't know how to do anything else, but they don't want to do anything else. I speak to farmers. I say, would you like to live in my penthouse in Manhattan? It's the most beautiful. No, sir, I want this farm. And what happens is, I mean, we were losing a lot of people to suicide. They'd borrow money to pay the estate tax, and they were not able to pay it. And some banks are ruthless; they wouldn't do anything, and they would end up committing suicide. We have totally ended the estate tax in those situations, so there's no estate tax. So when a parent leaves the farm to the kids, they don't have to worry about their local, possibly unfriendly banker coming in and stealing their farm.
I mean, you know, Keir Starmer says he gets it, but he doesn't. Donald Trump does get it, though. Let's talk to Gareth Wyn-Jones, a farmer, of course. Gareth, very good morning to you.
Yeah, Bonada, how are you?
Yeah, not bad. Bonada, as you say. Quite refreshing to see a leader like Donald Trump actually understanding what it is that you guys do.
Very refreshing, you know, and it's nice to hear that he's got the backs of the people that are feeding him. And literally, Keir Starmer looked like a rabbit in the headlights. He didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. They haven't got an understanding of the agricultural businesses. You know, we have a 1% return of what we're producing. You know, these subsidies were put there for people to have affordable food. Food inflation is going through the roof. We're losing land to rewilding. We're losing land to solar farms. We're losing land to construction and building and roads, you know, infrastructure. We need them, but we need to be protecting our food security in this country.
Yeah.
And if they say this climate crisis is on the horizon, well, you know what? We're not going to be getting food from other countries across the world. We need to be protecting our food system. And there's a massive hike in food inflation. They reckon by 2050, food inflation will go up at least 34%. And we're seeing it on a weekly and monthly basis, Mike. And this is a global problem, okay? We have a global shortage of top quality protein, which is red meat, lamb and beef across the world. So it's not going to just appear from anywhere. You know, there's been a global agenda by the WEF and the UN to reduce the number of livestock because we've been blamed for the problems in the so-called climate catastrophe. And they are searching for this dream of net zero and trying to reduce the number of livestock, which is an absolute joke. People are going to go hungry, and people won't be able to afford good food that comes from farms, and they'll have to go and look for processed rubbish which are produced in factories, which is going to make people ill, which is going to cost millions to the NHS in the long run. build a better Britain on our bellies, Mike, and starting with the farmers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We've got to leave it there, Gareth, because we're out of time for today, but we'll get you back on soon. Gareth Wynne-Jones. Yeah, build it on the bellies of the British people, you know. Make people work. Make people eat good food. And support the farmers and stop taxing people all over the place. That's the trouble. There's too many taxes. The money's all going to the wrong people. And this is a disaster for Keir Starmer, a disaster for Britain. Coming up next, Kemi Badenoch's going to be joining us. She is, of course, the Conservative leader. We'll be putting a few questions to her. We'll play some of that migrant hotel footage to her as well and see what she makes of that. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 9:32. I'm Mike Graham with you, of course, until 10 o'clock. The next half an hour, Julie Hartley-Brewer will be here to take over from 10 o'clock. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party. Very good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. We've got to start with Donald Trump, haven't we?
Yes.
I mean, Keir Starmer is trying to pretend, I think, that it didn't actually happen because his entire social media team are on some kind of blackout. He hasn't put anything out. You know, as soon as when he saw the Prime Minister of Czechia, when he saw the German Chancellor, when he saw Macron, when he had the Albanian Prime, you know, whoever he has in from a foreign land, it's all over the place. You know, he had Narendra Modi last week. You know, that was all going out. He's not put anything out on his Twitter account of his meeting with Donald Trump yesterday. I wonder why that is.
I think they are struggling to find a moment that looks good.
Yeah.
And that's because despite President Trump praising Keir Starmer, he spent most of the meeting trashing his agenda on immigration, on taxes, how he's treating farmers. Today I've seen another tweet about North Sea oil and gas, something that I've been talking about, how Labour is killing that industry with the windfall taxes, and we need the energy from the North Sea. Other countries are, you know, drilling in that basin while we're closing down licences.
Right. And of course, he said to Donald Trump, when Donald Trump said wind is a disaster, that was his quote. And he said, oh, well, of course, we've got more of a mix. We've got an approach. It's not a mix, you know. Ed Miliband doesn't think it's a mix. Ed Miliband thinks it's all about wind and solar, doesn't he?
I think that he struggles to assert himself in those meetings.
Yeah.
It looks like he's a hostage.
Yeah.
You know, he's sitting there terrified about, you know, what lines he can take, whereas President Trump is quite freewheeling.
It's just riffing, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think Keir Starmer doesn't really know how to deal with that.
Right.
But what we need is to see the British Prime Minister standing up for our interests, showing that he's winning. And every time we see him with President Trump, it looks like it's the US that's winning.
Yeah. Well, a lot of our listeners and viewers have been commenting on it this morning. Have a look at some of their reactions to what they've been watching.
I'll tell you what, yesterday was TV gold.
Starmer just looked like a ventriloquist dummy.
Starmer looked like a little boy lost with his football.
And he looked like he was chewing a wasp. It was just brilliant.
He was like a little boy being told off at school for smoking behind the bike shed.
He just reminded me of Beaker out of the Muppets, just sat there whimpering and looking gormless.
What an absolute plonker.
I mean, that's the British reaction to what he did yesterday. And frankly, he would have been better off staying in Downing Street, where he could have had a nice photo opportunity with the Lionesses, right? Instead of letting Angela Rayner do it. And he wouldn't have lost anything by not going to see Donald Trump because, you know, it was just a massive humiliation, it seems to me.
Well, what's happening is that Keir Starmer is not having a good time on the domestic front. Everything's going wrong. There are protests all over the country around migrant hotels.
Which he doesn't want to acknowledge,
He doesn't know what to do. He hasn't got a plan. Doctors are going on strike. There's a cost of living issue. So looking like an international statesman is where he runs to when he can't fix problems at home. That's why he takes all those pictures with all the other world leaders. But actually, when he's sitting next to President Trump, he doesn't look like an international statesman.
No.
And we need our Prime Minister to start sticking up for our country and making life better for people here.
But this is the trouble. He doesn't impress, I don't think, on the international stage. I don't think anybody particularly has any great respect for him. He doesn't sort of promote Britain. He promotes a kind of, you know, rather, I don't know, slightly embarrassing version of Britain, you know, where he's not very sure, he's not very clear on what his policies are. Every 5 minutes he's U-turning on them. You never quite know. I mean, we were just talking to our farmer, Gareth Wyn-Jones there. You know, every week I'm expecting him to do a U-turn on the farmer's tax, you know. You just don't know what he's going to be doing.
It's because he doesn't have a very clear agenda. He thought that all that needed to happen was for Conservatives to be removed and then everything would be fine, he'd be fantastic because, you know, he clearly thinks of himself as being a great person. And actually, without an agenda, it's very hard to tell a great story of what Britain is and what it's about on the international stage. You look at the deals he's been signing with the EU, with the US, we're not coming out of those deals very well. And it's why I say whenever Labour negotiates, Britain loses. They don't know how to negotiate. We were much tougher than Labour. Even with the doctors' strikes, they just gave away 28% pay rises. They got nothing in return, and now they're striking again. And this is one of the things that he sort of demonstrates when he's on the world stage, that he's just sort of there, but he doesn't know why he's there.
Yeah. Well, somebody described him as he's not really the Prime Minister anymore. He's just a guy that lives at number 10 Downing Street. And it's kind of true, because he has kind of lost the authority of his own party. You know, know, you talk about doctor strikes. I think this week you said that you would make it illegal for doctors to strike.
That's correct.
How would you do that?
So what we've been seeing from Labour is a lot of tough talk but no action. Banning strikes from doctors would put them in the same category as the army, the police, prison officers. So this is not a new thing. But the reason why I think we need to do it is because the BMA, the Doctors' Trade Union, has become very militant.
Yeah.
They're not just, you know, calmly having negotiations. They have a political agenda that is not in the interest of this country.
Yeah.
It's costing the NHS billions. Doctor strikes, it's about the 12th strike we've had in about 2 years. It's cost about $1.5 billion. And if you look at what Rachel Reeves is doing with the economy, or I mean, all of your listeners will know, Mike, we don't have that kind of money.
No.
It's not good for patient safety. People die during these strikes, operations delayed, people not getting the care that they need. And that's why I've said, right, enough, let's just ban these strikes and get doctors back to work.
Yeah, because we're learning from just today the nurses are likely to go on strike as well, and the BMA are being accused by the NHS of actually harming patients and causing people to die.
Yes.
And even that's not enough to bring them back to work.
Well, if the NHS itself is saying it, I think people can see that what I'm saying is true. But of course the nurses are now planning to go on strike because they must feel like mugs.
Yeah.
They negotiated a reasonable settlement and then they saw West Streeting give the doctors 28%, and they will be thinking, well, we'll have some of that. And that's what happens when you give extraordinary pay rises with taxpayers' money. Everybody else thinks that they've been cheated, and then it creates a ratchet effect. And they now don't know what to do because, of course, there's no money left. They spent billions settling the trade unions last year. But you can't do that year after year.
No, it's ridiculous. And what about the BMA? Would you do away with it then? Would you have it? Because, I mean, would there not be likely to be a sort of a legal challenge if you said doctors can't strike?
No, we have. It's a precedent. We have the same thing with army officers, with you know, with prison officers. No, I wouldn't do away with the BMA. I think the trade unions can be a force for good when they use that power that they have to do the right thing. I believe in freedom of association. I'm a conservative. Conservatives believe people should be able to gather and associate as they want. But it's when they become militant, when they start doing things that are against the public interest, that's when there's an issue. Conservatives believe that all of these organisations should be working in the national interest. And right now, what they're doing is just looking at what's going to be great for doctors, not for patients, not for the NHS, not for the country.
No, you talked about these migrant hotel protests that are going on. We've actually got some exclusive footage this morning from a guy called Aston Knight, his name is. He was at the Copthorne Hotel in West Sussex. It's down in Crawley. You might know it. It's near a golf course. Have a look at this. This is a clip about the living conditions inside the hotel.
I have been quite surprised at the level of luxury that is enjoyed by many of the residents who live at Copthorne Hotel. When I thought of the term illegal migrant hotel, I definitely had a far less luxurious accommodation in my mental image. Perhaps what I found more surprising is the level of affluence of some of the residents themselves as well. So before the housekeeping staff make their rounds, the bedrooms do get rather messy. I mean, you can see here cigarettes and weed and ash all over the tables, banana skins left everywhere, bags of rubbish on the floor, weed grinder, weed and ash all over the desk. In stark contrast to the relative luxury enjoyed by the service users at Copthorne Hotel, in the staff accommodation block, where I have kindly been gifted a room for the duration of my stay, is anything but a luxurious 4-star hotel. The rooms are like boxes, there's no Wi-Fi, no televisions, the signal is terrible. It is literally a box with a bed and a sink.
So you can clearly see they've got, you know, PlayStations, they've got Apple laptops that they've been given, they're smoking weed, they're smoking cigarettes, which we can't do in hotels. I mean, it's extraordinary.
Yeah. Our kindness is being exploited.
Yeah.
A bunch of people have worked out that if they arrive here illegally and claim asylum, that they will get free room and board, lots of luxuries, as we've just seen on that clip. And we just need to start getting tough on this. Starmer does not have a plan. We had a plan which we took to the electorate. We didn't win that election, but Starmer should not have scrapped that plan, which was to get these people processed outside the country. It's the only thing that will stop them coming here. Because if they know that they're not going to get that luxury treatment which we've just seen, then they will go elsewhere or they'll stop coming. But many of these people who are claiming asylum are not real asylum seekers. If they were, we'd be seeing many more women, many more children. Instead, we're seeing lots of young men, refugees aren't smoking weed and playing PlayStation. They're traumatized, they're worried. These are people exploiting our kindness, and we just need to get tough. We need to get serious.
I mean, there's another clip where he talks to a guy from Sudan who says, I've just got my visa. We're not sure what he means by that, but he's got the right to stay. And he shows him a clip of him coming on a boat, you know, literally a few days earlier. And a question from some of our listeners have put questions to you. One from Jeff in Brighton. How would you convince other countries to take back deported migrants?
Well, there are things that we can do, such as stopping visas from those countries. But I don't think we've even really tried. With some countries where we're giving aid, we can stop giving the aid. But showing that if you get here, you're not going to have a nice life and you're going to be sent back will stop many people from coming. And that's why I've toughened up Conservative policy. We had a migration policy that had lots of loopholes in it. Now, if you arrive here illegally, no, you will not be able to stay here if there's a Conservative government. And people should know that, because we will get back in. And when we do, all of the people who've arrived here illegally will know that they are going to be sent back. We're not going to allow the use of the Human Rights Act to stop immigration controls from taking place. That's another kindness that's being exploited. We are being taken for mugs, and it needs to stop.
But when the Tories were in, the human rights lawyers were all over the place, weren't they? You couldn't move for human rights lawyers. There don't seem to be any anymore. They don't seem to be challenging the Labour government in the same way that they were challenging you, which it strikes me that they're pretty political, these characters, aren't they? And if you try to deport more people, they'll be back on your back again, won't they?
Well, they don't need to challenge because they're in power now. That's the thing. We have a human rights lawyer as the Prime Minister of the country. And so what I saw, actually, was that a lot of people in the Home Office are actually very sympathetic to people coming to this country. We had a Director General of the Home Office leave to join Amnesty International. That was one of the people who's supposed to be controlling borders. Many people who go into the civil service have no interest in doing the tough work. They want to do nice things. And that's fine. If you want to do nice things, go work for a charity. Don't work in the Home Office. And this is why you need people who understand what's going on in the system, how government works, and who have a proper plan, not just announcements and slogans, but a proper plan to solve it. And that's what we've been working on.
But didn't Priti Patel and Suella Braverman both have a plan? I mean, we were quite hopeful that they were going to be able to go into the Home Office and sort it all out. But it turned out that the Home Office just kind of chewed them up and spat them out and just went, sorry, we're not going to budge.
Well, I remember a lot of Priti's time was spent dealing with, you know, bullying allegations and so on. But the truth is, the buck stops with the Prime Minister. If the Prime Minister is not laser-focused 100% on migration, then other people will be trying to do different things. Home Office may be trying to control migration, or the Home Secretary, but you'll have another department saying, well, we need lots more people for care workers, and we need seasonal agricultural workers, and we need this and we need that. And you have a tension with people pulling in lots of different directions. It starts from the top, and what we need is a Prime Minister who says, enough is enough. We're going to stop this now. We're going to control the borders. And right now, Keir Starmer's not doing that.
No, he really isn't. He doesn't like talking about it. Let's talk about the online safety bill as well, because I think you were against it when it was going through Parliament initially. I don't know if you've seen the spat this morning between Nigel Farage and Peter Kyle. Peter Kyle went on Sky News and basically said, you know, if you're against the Online Safety Act, you're akin to a predator. And he basically said that Nigel Farage is on the side of Jimmy Savile for opposing it. I mean, it's certainly unparliamentary language. Nigel Farage is asking him to apologise. What do you make of that kind of statement?
Well, I'm not getting involved in Labour and Reform having a spat. For me, it's a plague on both their houses. Neither of those parties has any solutions to that. We shouldn't be, you know, throwing insults at opponents, but criticising the ideas behind it. And I said at the time, this bill is not going to work. I actually managed to get it watered down. The version we're seeing is the watered down version. It's very hard, you know, when you're in government. There are lots of people who want certain measures. We do need to do things to protect children from a lot of the harm that's online. But I could just see the way it was written, that as usual, it would go after people doing perfectly legitimate things, and the bad guys will still find a way to circumvent the rules. This is the story of our times. More and more and more rules, good people having to deal with more and more burdens, whether it's on migration, whether it's on business taxes, and then the bad guys find ways to circumvent. And that's what we're seeing. VPN usage has shot through the roof. People are finding ways to bypass these laws.
And the government today is saying they might clamp down on that.
Well, I don't think...
I'm not sure how they can.
I don't see how they can, because there are a lot of legitimate users for virtual private networks. There are many legitimate users. So we need to go back and think again. I don't think that the whole act should be scrapped, but there's a lot wrong with it. We need to make sure that we protect children from harm, but this is not the way to go about it.
But it's also a free speech issue, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, you've
absolutely.
got an awful lot of people complaining that, you know, this new elite squad's been set up, the police are going to be monitoring what people say about migrants, you know, which is a surefire way of building even more resentment in the community, and a surefire way of creating some kind of civil unrest. I mean, Simon in Devon's asking that question. Do you think we are heading for some kind of civil unrest?
No, and I don't want to sound like, you know, we want to see civil unrest. Everything should be done to calm tensions and to cool tempers. But there is way too much attention focused on hurt feelings online rather than the real stuff that's happening on the street, because that is tougher to police. And I wouldn't be surprised, I've heard many police officers sort of say this in not so many words, that when they actually go after the criminals on the streets, they see them turn up, you know, again. They're just released very quickly. It almost feels like there's no point. There's no enforcement of the real crimes that are making people's lives miserable. So they go to the easy space where new laws and regulations are brought in constantly. Every day somebody somewhere has a good idea, let's ban this, let's ban that online, but it's not really where the problems are. We need to focus on shoplifting, violence, crime, disorder, sexual abuse, all of that stuff. That's where I want to see the police focused on.
I think a lot of people would agree with that. One from Hannah in Epping. She says, I live in Epping and I've been at the hotel protest. Will Kemi come and see us and visit us? Because I spoke to one of the mothers there last week, and I said, if you had a message for Keir Starmer, what would it be? And she said, please just come and see us, come and talk to us and understand why we're doing this and why we don't want these migrants in our community.
Well,
would you go and see her?
Well, I'd love to. Remember, I'm an Essex MP. So, and all of us, certainly the Conservative Essex MPs, have been talking about this and what to do. We have said that hotel needs to be closed. We have said that we need to get a grip on this issue, and it shouldn't be. The thing I'm worried about is hotels being closed and it's just private rented accommodation that's being used, which is harder to track what exactly is going on. We just need to stop those boats. That's the big thing.
Because as you can see from that footage we've got of inside of the asylum seekers hotel, if you put all those people into private residence, presumably you have to give them the same standard of living that they have in the hotel. So you're going to be giving them free food.
And it's our money. It's our money, Mike.
Well,
money
I just paid a bucket load of money to the taxman, right? Because it's the end of July coming up, right? So I'm in a pretty bad mood with the government. I'm going, I've given you quite a lot of money, which I've generated as a result of my, perhaps overpaid status. But nevertheless, they're now going to just give all that away to somebody who doesn't deserve it.
We are spending money on things that are not going to help grow our economy, make our lives better. We're spending money on people who have no business being in this country, and we are not having enough money for the people who do have needs in the UK. And that's what my party is very focused on now. How do we make sure that we can make life better for the people here who are out there grafting, working hard, and are not seeing any returns for all of the work that they're doing?
One of the things Keir Starmer was talking about today in the Telegraph, if he's not talking about migrant hotels, is Palestine. He says, under pressure presumably from his backbenchers, he wants to recognise Palestine as a state, but he doesn't really say when. Do you think he's right to recognise it as a state?
No. I think it would be the wrong thing to do at this point. There is a humanitarian crisis right now. That needs to be addressed. He should be talking about dropping aid packages, making sure that people there, an international effort is being coordinated to look after the people who are suffering. There is a war on, and as you and I both know, and all your listeners will know, war is a terrible situation, and it means that there are many people who, through no fault of their own, are suffering. Let's see what we can do to help those people. But statehood gives Hamas power. And it's yet another gimmick. Why is he convening cabinet to talk about Gaza? He's not convening cabinet to talk about the migrant crisis.
Right.
He's not convening cabinet to talk about all those farmers who are closing down their businesses, what they're going to do about the economy. The debt crisis seems to be looming. He's convening cabinet to talk about Gaza. He's not in a position to sort out that problem. But, okay, let's say we give statehood, and then what? Does the problem disappear? No, it doesn't. Doesn't fix anything at all. He's doing this to solve a political problem because a lot of people in his cabinet want statehood for Palestine. They are student campaigners, lifelong campaigners. This is the sort of stuff that they like. And he's dealing with an internal party problem rather than dealing with the problems of this country.
Yeah, I think that's right. You can't call him a liar in the House of Commons because it's not allowed to be done. I've called him it before, Keir Starmer. He comes out with a lot of untruths. Let's try it, if you want to try and be kind about it. But, I mean, he is a liar, isn't he?
He has said so many things at the dispatch box that are untrue. We actually had a video of how many times he had told lies at the dispatch box. Sometimes I can tell it's because he doesn't even know. When I ask him questions, he doesn't answer a lot of times because he doesn't know the answer. You know, say what you want about Rishi Sunak. He had an answer to the question. You might not have liked the answer, but he had an answer to the question. He was running the country. Keir Starmer doesn't have any answers. Other times he says things that aren't true, like we didn't sign trade deals. I signed the biggest post-Brexit trade deal, which was with 13 countries, sorry, with 12 countries, CPTPP.
Right.
But that's not enough to get the economy going if you're taxing people to the hilt. Doesn't matter how many trade deals you sign. If you're raising employers' NI, if you're taxing farmers, they're not going to be able to use those deals. He makes claims about £22 billion black hole. Completely untrue. They went in and they made a mess. They grabbed from farmers, they grabbed winter fuel payments, punishing people going to private school because they thought these aren't our people, so we can have a hit at them.
And he also keeps claiming that the business confidence is up when it isn't.
Exactly. That's another classic example. Business confidence has never been as low as it is now. Borrowing rates are higher than they have been for the last 30 years. He's constantly talking about Liz Truss, but what Rachel Reeves has been doing with the economy is a lot worse. You look at borrowing rates, you look at business confidence, and he gets away with it because at the dispatch box, I can't say you're lying. So I have to show it rather than say it. And I think people are beginning to see.
So it sounds like you do believe that he's a liar, though.
Yeah,
he is. One final thing on Trump, when he was talking to Nigel Farage, sorry, not Nigel Farage, talking to Keir Starmer about how to win an election, he said, I know you guys have got a two-party system, Reform and Labour. He didn't actually mention the Tories at all.
Well, that's because he was asked about reform. So quite often, because of Reform's poll rating, people get asked a lot of questions about reform, which makes it seem as if that's what they believe will happen. There's 4 years to a general election. We are not a two-party system. We are now a multi-party system. We live in the era of multi-party politics. You look at what's been happening in Scotland and Wales. That is now coming to England. At the May elections, we won the Cambridgeshire mayoralty with 28% of the vote, and everybody was sort of bubbling around the surface. The Greens, Liberal Democrats, Labour, and our system, first past the post, is built for two parties, but we don't have a two-party system anymore. We now have a multi-party system.
And do you think that Keir Starmer makes it to the next election? Because a lot of people don't. I don't think he will.
I think he will. I think a lot of people forget that Labour have a super majority, and
doesn't seem like it.
They have, honestly, we have 120 Conservative MPs. He could remove 120 MPs from his party and he'd still be in government. And I don't think a lot of people realise just how big that majority is. People wanted to remove Conservatives from office last year. I get that. We got a lot of things wrong, and that's my job to fix now. I'm now in charge, and we're fixing that. It's going to be, a journey, but we're on the way. But what they didn't mean to do was give Labour a huge majority. Lots of people voted Reform, Lib Dem. Instead, they ended up getting more and more Labour. And Labour thinks that they have a mandate to do all sorts of things. Votes at 16, assisted dying, terminating babies at 40 weeks. Nobody voted for all of that. These are their personal campaigns, which they're using to run the country because they cannot fix the big problems. They can't sort out the economy. They don't know what to do. They can't sort out immigration. They don't know what to do. They can't sort out the health service. They don't know what to do. So they're going to spend a lot of their time focused on lots of silly things for the next 4 years. But he'll be there. If he's not there, it'll be somebody worse like Angela Rayner. People keep asking me, should Rachel Reeves be sacked? And I keep pointing out that there's a lot worse on the Labour backbenchers. So be careful what you wish for. What we need to be focused on is getting Labour out and making sure, from my perspective, Conservatives get back in. We are the only credible alternative. We may be down right now, but we're not out, and we will be coming back.
Kemi Badenoch, very good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Mike.
We'll be back right here on Talk after this.
$10K cash for